All right, call this meeting to order. We're gonna have a flexible agenda as they locate a flag. So we're gonna go ahead and welcome a new member. And committee, we'd like to welcome Kate Sidor. All works, right? I go on. She's replacing Tim Jackson, so welcome, and you're a great contributor to our committee.
So Kate is in the same office as CCSD, District Athletic Activities Office. And Kate does many things in there. Primary focus on stuff, on what Kate, you, a lot that you do, but primary focus is health, release transfers, and also time.
Whatever I don't want to do.
Thanks. That's it. Good to you.
This time we'll do roll call.
Gail Morton,
Here,
Daphne Bronson, Amy Huntsman, here. Mark Jacoby, Vince Christopher,
here.
Lauren Lotz, here. Linda Camp, here. Robert Northridge, Ray Parks,
Here.
Tony Colton,
Here.
Kate Floyd, here. Pamela Sloan, here. Roland Stallworth,
Here.
Ellen Townsend, here. Daniel White,
Here.
Donnie Nelson, here. Art Davis. And myself, too, Wonder Brother.
Yes, yeah, probably.
Yeah, this time would you please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Okay. Approval of the April 12th, 2023 meeting agenda.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Wednesday, September 28th meeting minutes, or is that what we're doing? Okay, I'm gonna change it to the agenda.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to approve and a second for the agenda for today. Discussion? Any additions or deletions? Yeah, any deletions? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the September 28th, 2022 meeting minutes for possible action.
Let me try that again. Make a motion to approve the September 28th meeting minutes.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Pam and a second by Ray. Any discussion?
I didn't know, Donnie Nelson, that we will refer back to these minutes, particularly on page 7, some of our assignments from before. And we'll make some other comments here a little bit before we get going to where we are, especially on page 8 too. And looking at where we've stalled, in essence. I know you'll talk about that when we get to chair comments, but just note that we will get back to these page 7 a little later. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Just give me a second here. I'll get to my packet. Okay, I guess while we're doing that, we can move to public comments. Tia, would you please read the statements for public comments?
Absolutely. This time provides an opportunity for citizens to address the committee about any matter not on the agenda. Items raised during this portion of the agenda cannot be deliberated or acted upon until notice of the procedures of the open meeting law have been complied with. Should a member of the public wish to speak on a matter not listed on the agenda, it is asked that said person please complete a green public comment card and submit it to the chair prior to the meeting. A limit of 3 minutes per person and for 5 minutes per spokesperson in a group may be imposed. It is requested that comments be directed to the committee as a whole. Comments are determined to be relevant, repetitious, offensive, inflammatory, will be disruptive, or may be a personal attack will not be permitted. Comment received by email will be read into the record. At this time, I have nothing.
At this time, we call for the public comment here. No public comment, all right, thank you. Bart, would you advise us on the report, please?
Yeah, I'm not gonna get, well,
You
what I should say or not, maybe, but please be advised, these owls do pick up everything, including the whispering on the side conversations or whatever, so please be aware of it. Please.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Item H, Sportsmanship Committee Chair's comments. First of all, I'm happy to see as many people here as that are here. I wish we had the ones who couldn't be here, and I understand why they can't be here. I want to really roll up our sleeves today. We've got a couple items on the agenda under letter K. I think we've kind of stalled on them items. When we get to those items, we discuss them in further detail. We'll see as we move forward with if we're going to move forward with the items or let them stall. Then the ones that we move forward with, we might need to have some more committee members help out, or the leaders of those topics. What they may need to assist them to continue to move them forward more efficiently and effectively. So we'll come together in June, we can have some real substance of what's happened. I think I need to get more actively involved also with what we're going to do with those committee reports or committee actions, and have maybe weekly communications with the people that are in charge of those to see where we're at, so we can again have some substance as we move forward in June to try and do some things forward for the NIAA as well, basically for the schools and student athletes. So other than that, I don't have any other comments. Letter I, NIAA, NFHS Joint Communications, Donnie and Ellen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so we back to page 9. We're going to show you what is available to us. And Ellen, thank you for thank you for communicating with the NFHS staff, trying to get our correct logo on there, working to secure these things. So this is something that every state is working with our national office to try and again generate some other publicity, some knowledge, some recognition for what sportsmanship is all about. This is a new campaign that's rolling out of the national office, and we're privileged to see some of this stuff in advance of what's coming to help us and how we're going to utilize it. So I want to review it first, and then really just engage in some discussion about how we should utilize these things. So pages 9 and 10 are sample public service address announcements. We have, as you know, a citizenship through sportsmanship statement that we put out in our public address announcements that go out to our schools before each game. Besides doing this, announcing the starting lineups and having in-game sponsor reads, we have something at the very beginning, which is pretty comprehensive. And so looking at this on pages 9 and 10, I think we've got it pretty well covered in our opening statement. But I'm going to find a way, I think, and again, I know Bart Davis not on the committee, but when we build out our public address announcements, to also add in these two items right here. I think maybe we get to a point where we'll probably just maybe we could use it's not for an action item per se, but we can have direction from this committee to say, hey, yes, let's build these into our public service announcements just the way they are. It's good. At the same time, too, as we go beyond pages 9 and 10, we look at 11 I'll go through here. So player and parent guardian contract. This is something different. I know some schools and districts have something in place already, kind of inherent and embedded with their sport packet or a spirit packet, I think is what it is. This could be something we could include. This could be something that our office, in essence, down the road mandates that schools include in their package. We want to go as far as that. Collect these things. Obviously, I don't expect that we're going to have, 40,000 signed contracts or that, it's a full load. It'd be about maybe 26,000 independent signed pages come into our office. I don't think that's realistic, but maybe it's something we do without creating an extra workload on our athletic secretaries, directors, or administrators that we have file, at the school, just so we know it, becomes part of the spirit packet. And you can look in there and it's a lot of things, right, for players and parent guardians, they be sent home and signed off. Maybe it's something that becomes inherent within active, which too, part of the registration process. That's possible. There's a lot of things we can do with page 11. I'll circle back on that here in just a second, as some input. Then going to pages 12 through 15, through page 16. These are some advertisements, and I know in our office, we're looking forward to at some point, probably having a new website developed. That's down the road. But something like this could certainly be inherently put on a website. This could be sent to schools, to be posted at schools. There's a QR code at the bottom of that about this, the bench bad behavior motto, which is coming from the Federation. So, I'll engage all of you with what we should do with these things, how we should use these. Some great ideas, and I like the behavior is contagious. I like that one a lot. It's an act your age. Maybe that's a little bit direct and blunt, but maybe it needs to be respect our officials. So it does address a little bit of everything. And then finally, before we get back to the discussion, page 17. This is something. This letter is something that I would come out of my desk, and as we talk about some other items about recognizing outstanding sportsmanship from our coaches, from our student athletes, from schools in particular. Something that somebody would send into us and say, hey, Donnie, this student, this coach, this official even, this administrative director, secretary, whoever across the board, did an outstanding job. We want to thank them. Would you please send them a letter of recognition? So this could be used something along those lines. That's the intro to item I. And so I'm going to backtrack here a little bit then to 9 and 10, just the live PA announcements. Go around the room, open-ended. Is that something that we should, as is, just adopt, build them into our PAs, with all the other sponsoring, just make it a normal part of our script?
So,
Yeah.
my thought on that, less is better. The more compact that you can have the message, the shorter and more impact. And the other part of it is the consistency across all schools, all leagues, all divisions, all NIAAs is going to be more helpful and easier to say, hey, this is it right here. And I know the statement that you have now, it's rather lengthy. Yeah. In reading this one, I mean, this is pretty straight and to the point. I mean, just boom, there it is.
I kind of agree in saying in that we do it at all of our meetings, and it's gotten to the point where people don't pay attention anymore. And I think something fresh, new, and short like this, it's very concise and to the point. I think it would make a difference. People.
Well, I like the statement in here about this. This is about students learning and growing. This is, I talk about that as an official all the time. This is an extension of the classroom, period. And we've got to stick to something else. This is academic. This is an extension of academics, and this is a privilege, not a right. It's a privilege for athletes. It's a privilege for parents to be there. For us, we'll throw your butt out. Okay, and we'll give you your $5 back if you're going to act like that. So yes, we are going to bench that. Yeah.
In line with that too, I have a couple comments that, because it is an extension of the classroom, and that's really easy for us educators sitting around this table to preach that to our teachers that are coaches. But we have so many non-district employees that don't understand, or I'm not sure the schools have taken the time to explain the importance of that. And when they're out there coaching, it's like, well, so they're free to speak, it's, unless a good administrator stops. I think we need to do some messaging or some educational component on with that as well. My other question, and I know this is just early stages, is I would like to know how the NIAA plans to roll this out, because Donnie really needs to be the face of this if he's going to share it. If it's going to hold teeth, it's going to have teeth. You need to be the face, and you need to get in front of it. You need, we can't just send an email. Because sportsmanship, and I've hounded it for years, this is huge right now. And I believe too, that if we're gonna put all this, we're gonna have them sign this agreement, the contracts. We gotta have some teeth in it. There has to be some consequence. And I know that's gonna come down later, but, no, I think this is good, and I agree with you, less is more. But I think going forward, there's a lot of education that needs to take place, first of all.
As official of the contest, well, as the district, but as an official too. My team meeting with the coach and the player is the same every time, whether the coach is not or are not teachers. But I make sure to send that message that this is an extension of the classroom, because those behaviors on the court or on the field are expected to be the same as they are in the classroom for any environment. And any adult that's there coaching should be able to figure that out when we talk about, behavior. And I'll say it, the behaviors are expected to be in line with the classroom, period. And I know that's kind of unique for me because.
You understand, Dale, you're an
Yeah.
exception.
Well,
People get excited when Dale Moore. And I'm not saying that, I mean, that's the truth.
yeah,
Because you're an exception, and maybe there needs to be an expectation of officials to have, here's the scripted conversation.
and we talked about that, I know, one organization that, that's been used as an example. And it's not because it's what I've done, but it's the truth. The truth is, this is a privilege and an honor. This is an extension of the classroom. We're gonna treat it that way. If we have bad behaviors on the court, off the court, in the bench area, whatever, they're gonna be addressed, they're gonna be addressed immediately. And that's just the way it should be. Not everybody's gonna agree with the way they're addressed, or not everybody will agree with the way that you have whoever to address it, because as an official, I'm not addressing the ones in the stands. I'm doing Mr. Administrator or Miss Administrator. You come over here, you deal with that fan. We're not gonna continue this contest until that's dealt with. However, you decide today to deal with it. If they're staying, then they're gonna behave. If they're not staying, take them out.
In line with that too, like you and I are having this conversation. I think we also need to lay out expectations of the schools. You're absolutely right. Officials have to officiate the game, and they'll handle, and sometimes our administrators, you can't find them. And I think they need to be reminded, as part of this process here, that they need to be on site in the gym. They have to be visible, as we preach all the time, because they have to handle the behavior mistakes.
Well, getting back to this, I really like this. This has a lot of substance to it in a very small amount of words. And I do agree that maybe it's how long the statement that we've had has been there. Yeah, quite a while. And I agree. I mean, almost every contest I went to this year was, whether it was a regular season game or, we know that they do them in the playoffs and all that. But regular season games that I went to, the sites that I went to, that was red. That's good. But maybe it's time for a change. Something a little more in line with what's happening today, because we know the bad behaviors. Every time something hits you, someone sends me a link to see the bad things that have happened, and it's the good far outweighs the bad, but the bad is the stuff that always comes out to the surface, and it's too bad to see that. So even watching some of the highest level collegiate sports, I saw some not so good behavior that took place that I didn't agree with personally, but that's another level and for another day. So
Dale, let me ask you the group this. In the postseason is when our office sends out public service announcements and a script. What if we send that script out to everybody to be used in all games at all times at all levels, for whatever, there's a public. And then schools during the regular season can certainly amend it however they want, to have their own sponsors read in there, to add their own commentary, because again, our local PA announcers are football, our volleyball, our soccer, basketball, baseball, softball games, they like to do their own thing too, the schools like to do their own thing, but maybe we have, this is a minimum script, and it's not just playoff games anymore, it's the whole thing. We'll include these in here and send it out from there. And then they talk about a rollout campus, we'll talk about a few other things coming up with the same item. But that would be something that we would roll out in our preseason meetings and go, this is what you got. This is step one for sportsmanship, among other things that are gonna happen after today. But
This should have been an expectation all along. I don't think we should have just waited for postseason for this type of script. And I do know that there are some schools, the McCann is also an exception sitting in this room right here, where this is consistently shared through the entire season. We shouldn't just wait for the postseason.
Yeah.
No,
And a lot of our schools do use
Yeah.
what we do during the season, but not everybody, we don't mandate that you use it.
maybe
Here's
it
your
needs to be. We have an issue in the state of that is sportsmanship.
That might be bad.
Yeah, I like it. Number one, I downloaded, this is just the NFHS, it's their campaign that they call Bench Bad Behavior. That was their campaign. And so these were just all the items that were in their toolkit, to pick and choose or use all or whatever. I personally, I like the two PA announcements, and, I really like the letter at the end that would go to officials, since officials seldom get any kind of recognition. And I think it's starting to get some recognition from the NIAA office directly to each official. However, that's done in an email sent to people, it's, obviously the cheapest way to go. I think that would go a lot towards even sports associations, the officials associations and the officials that are members, knowing that they get some recognition from the NIAA.
I did notice this year too at events that I attended somewhere in the PA announcements that several of the sites I went to also had, the officials had talked to the announcer and gave them their information to contact for something of that or whoever, for signing up for officials. And the second one has that in there where, we can either go to the sportsofficials.com or we could implant whatever league it is or whatever officiating association it is. I think that's great. That may not have to be done at the very beginning of the game or contest. It could be done partway through. It could be done at the end of the third quarter of a basketball game or a football game, or wherever it fits in between the second and third round of a volleyball match. I think that's great to let fans know that, look, these people are out there doing their job and they're common people too. Think you can do that job here, so.
Yeah.
So
Little cards go hand in hand.
I got a bucket of whistles, I can on for it too.
All right, so with regards to pages 9 and 10, we'll incorporate that into an actual NIAA contest public address script. With amendments that can be done during the regular season.
Yeah, we'll bring those back for.
Yeah.
June.
Yeah, and then we'll get the page 11 here on the side.
We're all talking about recording your Darth Vader voice and you play it everywhere.
No,
You wouldn't have any spectators.
But one thing I do think though is that the NIAA, as far as sponsoring this, should at least have a minimum requirement. That the expectation is that this will be the minimum, where any game on your campus that's being broadcast. Or there's fans and so forth, for example, basketball game, you will do it at the start of the game, at the start of the second half or the third quarter. Football, the start of the game, the start of the third quarter. Baseball game, start of the game, 7-inning stretch, study the rules again. And so that there's a minimum expectation that as a fan going to games and officials going to games, they want to hear that reinforcement being played as well, because they get to hear it. So I think whatever goes out, it needs to be that the minimum requirements are here. If you want to do more than that, that's fine and dandy. But here are the minimum requirements for any game that you have a public announcer, you have paid fans, all of those types of things. Get that done.
I find when I go to games at little schools, so they'll do it for a varsity game, they don't do it for freshman and JV game, and those people need to learn the system.
Yes.
Even if that's the only thing that's announced,
Exactly.
if they're not doing starting lineups, all that, that's fine. If somebody would just,
You
know that administrator is supposed to be supervising.
Yeah.
It's,
So all this information you're going over, this is for games inside gymnasiums where they got announcers, correct?
And outdoor events too.
Because
Yeah.
every game I do outdoors, including yesterday's baseball game at a high school where I had to jet the fan. There's nobody, there's no announcements, there's soccer, right? Probably two of the worst sports we have for projections are soccer and baseball. And there's no announcements, no, we read nothing out there.
Gotta come to Plum Valley, they have an announcer every time.
So are you saying the official would read it?
Yeah.
And Vince, there's not much. we can do. There's not a system out there.
Yeah, no, I get it. But to your point, there's some of the small schools, whatever, they have somebody out there announcing the game show with a speaker, but I'm just saying, it seems like a lot of the objections in these outdoor sports, there's nobody reading nothing about sportsmanship.
Vince, let me ask you this. I've done site visits with Xavier and I see quite a few PA system speakers out there.
Oh, yeah, they don't.
You got music, you can bump in a little microphone too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
There's ways around it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you can play music,
And how
you
about,
get a PA now.
how about soccer? I think the majority of games are played on football field. There's
Well,
definitely
you
PAs.
take that, the
I
announcement.
mean, that's all they have to do is just make that announcement, they didn't have to even open up this. The booth, they just go up and turn the PA out and read it and get off the field until they have to go back up and do it again.
We can work through that.
Yeah. And I think that's more of a school issue than an NIAA issue. That's not something the NIAA can say, you're gonna go in there and you can turn it, well, you gotta pay for us to fix our PA, to get it going, or whatever. But that's kind of should be a side expectation. I agree with Donnie that we can lay the expectations of, if you have a public PA system accessible, here's how many times, here's when they should be read, whatever. And I don't know, do we wanna, how do we wanna build them? When they're being done, how and who?
Beginning of the contest for sure.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, and then in sports that have a halftime, start in the second half, or sports that have one set after another, you know, we can pick and start the third set, first set and third set. So, right, kind of break it down for us a little bit.
Yeah, how about the second one, the listen up fans, with the sports official announcement in it. That's the second one.
Yeah, okay, so right, you don't want to overlap two with one and have lose the interest, lose the attention. So would that go in between then, was that second quarter that exists and start fourth quarter that exists,
Yeah,
or second set or fourth set in volleyball, if we have that, for example. So then you go to baseball and softball, right, you're talking about innings, you'd have to have at the start of it, and probably at the start of number one, start of the game, and probably fourth inning. And then, you know, umpires probably, you know, third inning and fifth inning, for example.
Yeah.
I'm just, we actually break it out. I think we have to list out for us, but that's a really good. So it's clear, this is when you do it. This is when you do this one, and this is when you do this one.
Ellen and Vince, you guys cover all the sports. Would you two get together and make the recommendation of when these should be done?
Sure.
Please,
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'll stay in touch with you guys.
Okay.
Too.
And to Pam's point, like I said, you go, every baseball, softball field, they're playing music between innings, between whatever. I mean,
If they're doing that,
right, or like I said, you go to the brew school, they all got somebody doing something over there.
it'd be, to me, it'd be a great time to have one of your student leaders get up there and make that announcement.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
There's an exception.
Just like I had my students with the flag jumping down and fold them too. Sorry. Okay, good.
Let's go to page 11 here, one more second.
11. This is the player-parent contract. And I know schools do that now, most schools. Is that an NIAA? Is that in the NIAA?
Well, yeah, well, Lori can tell us a little about, raising on our committee here, the feasibility, Lori, of doing this as to what's already in Activate when a student registers to acknowledge sportsmanship, and how this could possibly fit in there. In the actual registration process, if we went that direction, not saying we will, but I'm just wondering how we do it.
Well, that would be a text change and activate, and so we can probably take the text or whatever we want to put it and replace what's in the system.
Yeah.
That they'll e-sign and new.
And this is much more comprehensive than obviously anything we have in there right now. And another avenue is if we didn't do it to that degree through Activate, it could be something again that we tell our schools without again trying to put extra burden on our school to say, this needs to be included in your spirit packet. You are responsible for housing it. But we ask in good faith that you please make sure this is signed and returned.
Yeah, is this something that Clark County has something similar in their packets or not? No, Washoe?
Just put it on.
Could we not just make it part of the registration process?
I don't want to go too far. You say, "Donnie, that's
not too far.
That's perfect.
Because here's the thing, what happens at the end of the day, is that there has to be, I'm gonna go back to my consequence. That if something has, we have to, if he ejects a parent, he ejected a parent, instant. Say it was your parent, you had to bring the parent in, boom, 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 you kick up the kid's registration. Now I'm gonna remind you on such and such day, you sign this document, it's all laid out. So on and so forth.
There's already a sportsmanship section, and they
Yes.
sign and activate, so if this would be an easy change. To put in new text that they're reading and.
Before detail,
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, much more comprehensive.
yeah.
So without looking at the current, what's current, would we be in agreement that this would be okay to replace what's currently there and more of you are actively involved in that now than I am?
Let me ask this, Lori, can you pick up our name and see what that statement is, that the parent signs?
I have my own thing.
What should you be working on eligibility?
Well, she's filling that up.
I got it.
Okay.
So, let's see, schools, sportsmanship. Play with honesty and integrity, adhering to the rules of the sport and the NIAA rules, regulations, and bylaws. Demonstrate respect for the game and all those that participate. Teammates, opponents, coaches, officials, spectators, and fans. Display self-control and appropriate behavior when participating and by cheering for my team and not against the opponent.
No, I like this one because it says, I will. I mean, it's like a commitment. Well, the difference is, I think that's geared to the athlete only. This one is for parent and athlete, which I think is important.
I agree.
The question I have is, so parent A signs this and Vince kicks off parent B.
There should be progressivism. Just the same way you treat kids, if the parent does it once, there should be a consequence. If it happens twice, there should be another.
But I'm saying the parent that signed this is mom and he kicked out dad.
I don't get that, because majority of the time, the mother is the one that fills out the RMA application.
But you're gonna have administrators that will say, or athletic directors that will say, they didn't sign that.
But that doesn't, we just have a level two. And that didn't hold up in there.
Okay, just asking, it's just a point of conversation. I agree, I 100% agree, if mom signs it, you sign it, and remind, the schools need reminders, administrators, coaches, whoever, need to remind mom that whoever your significant other is, husband or whatever, you're signing for them too. It's a.
Add another line.
Yeah, you can sign it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Put a disclaimer in it.
I like that, I like that.
Just put a disclaimer, my signature denotes my family's understanding of
Yeah.
these rules.
Change that to all of them.
I'm signing for all parents and guardians of this child. How about
Well, I
that?
wouldn't put this parents and guardians, because we have siblings.
Well, that's true, but
Well, you're gonna have great parents and all that.
I think one of the things that
Get in the weeds.
that we need to make sure that's in our, and we'll get to this when Pam and I talk about NAC, but one of the things is that we might want to add the word parent and add the word spectator. And some of these, because you go to these games and there's, there's mom and dad, there's uncle, aunt, there's grandparents, there's all of these other relatives that are all coming in and out. And we we want to get as specific as we can, because what we did find out through this process is that the NAC mentions, well, we know this doesn't mention anything about parents. And it doesn't mention anything as far as the punishment and consequence, doesn't mention anything about spectators in general or fans. So with that being said, when we get to that, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we're getting very, very specific by just talking about parents. And we're really gonna talk about anybody that's coming to that game other than the players on each team and the coaches and umpires, who are really the only three people that are mentioned in NIAA. And so we gotta really get creative with the verbiage that we use so that we can put everybody under that umbrella.
Hey, I'm gonna go back to the communication that will be sent to the schools. I think too, that we should encourage schools to have it on the websites. You know,
This,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Because our schools do a really good job of having all their information, I think. Sportsmanship
and,
would be a great.
and it
Yeah.
should be in their athletic section of the website, that's.
Well, it's also something we can easily send out to parent link,
Mhm.
you know, before each season starts or to every student's parents. And it's pretty easy to get the information out.
But it would also help, like in Tony's situation, you meet the parent, hey, on the district website, I mean, on, but your website, we have the sportsmanship,
Well, and again,
just helps the cause.
the more consistency we have with this, with schools and the NIAA across the board. And this even links to the federation, the better off we're gonna be. Maybe
I was just gonna say, they do have to do activate RMA, all that stuff, but I don't think it's a bad idea, and this is as an AD and a coach and a parent, to require them to have the team meeting and the parent meeting, and to have them sign it there as well. Because that's where a coach or an administrator or an athletic director could have that conversation. This is, you know, this is for your whole family. You're signing this for the people that you're bringing to the game, and because, you know, we have a lot of other things we have to do. Why is that any different than having them register and having them, you know? I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't think that's asking more than what we as coaches and administrators probably should be doing anyway for sport.
So I'm gonna jump back in on this. This is a little bit of a sidebar, Amy, to what you're saying. But in our sports medicine advisory committee, we spoke about having an emergency action plan. And that's standard across the board. What our committee was thinking about doing as mandating that a coach meet with, and we just talked about the student athletes participants, not about the parents.
Right.
But mandating that one day of practice that's required to have your first official contest could actually be used and should be used by having an emergency action plan day. So you're actually not gonna have a team practice athletically. You're only gonna have an event management type of day that would count towards one of your minimum required practices. This then potentially could be tied into that. Now, granted, this is again, we're talking about student athletes only, we're not talking about parents. Right? Maybe we find a way to incorporate parents in there on a pre-night and say, if you do this and you do it well,
It can count.
whatever it is, that can actually count as your practice day. So you bring student athletes in, bring your parents in after that, go over emergency action, and then you talk about sportsmanship, and that's practice day.
I actually think that's a good idea because, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But because in the smaller schools, these kids are playing sport after sport after sport. We have girls that are actually participating in 4 sports, if you can, considering cheerleading. And so when they're cheering and it overlaps with when basketball starts or cheering for football, they just finished volleyball. That would be nice to be able to say, hey, this is a way to get a practice to cover some of these things that are really important. And, you know, cover, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Because there's so much required.
Yes,
I was just gonna say, and Pam and Kate can attest to this, whatever you decide to do with this, there needs to be like step by step, you gotta lay this out, because that athletic administrator room in Clark County will probably look 50% different in August than it does right now. So, it needs to be, whatever we do needs to be laid out, and for lack of a better way to put it, idiot proof, like this is the expectation, it has to happen at every game, that they can tell you the turnover in our field down here is unreal. I mean, there's only 3 or 4 of us that have been doing it more than a couple of years. So I would see that. Yeah. I would. Doug's not here and Dave, if you're like, I would keep that in mind as we're preparing this, that you're gonna prepare this for people who may be in athletics for the first time ever. And more than likely will be, at least in Clark County.
We're gonna tie that into our event manager, guy will talk about it later.
And then as we go, we can write down anything we want, but until the administrator steps up when someone acts out of hand and does something about it, then you grow that problem. We do that. Now, I know that I'm small school, but hell, we have a parent meeting when they make that meeting, we go through all of this. And you don't practice unless your parent was there, so. Yeah, it's easier, but man, something has to change, it has to change. So when you get those freshmen there, man, we harp on that because, and we have no officials because of our immediate parents over the years. And so it's hard to counteract that and say, oh, we're moving in a new direction. We got something on the wall. If, I have no problem, we have it on the walls, we speak it, but when they act out again, you got to address it. I know the administrators are scared to death to do that, but it'll never get better if we don't.
So Dale, starting back to page 11, then is I'm understanding that we want to use this language. Again, we can't put a spectator in here. This is a registration process format. That we want to replace this language into our registration process directly for student athletes. So good.
Let's,
Trying to think where else if we need any extra levels of approval in this. And I look towards our president or vice president of our board. Is that something that we need to take? Well, I'm not sure, how we trade your registration process. I'm not sure if that required board action or not. I guess we'll get that. I would
No.
think so.
No,
I just want to make sure, again, I'm gonna cover all the basics here, so we don't do something that long.
so my question would be, do we want to? I mean, I haven't heard any opposition to this at this table or two guests that are here. Some opposition that I see in waving their hands anyway. That this is a topic we go ahead and prepare and get ready and put into place for next fall. And we don't need to bring it back to this group for approval, we're saying this is what we want to do, or.
That's why I asked that question. If we think we can go, we don't need any consideration. With a disclaimer, we'll ask the federation to amend this page, or maybe we amend this page, if they've got their QR code and all that, and logos on there. Since we're taking their information, like just, and I'm sure they would do that, of course, they personalize it by having, a disclaimer about signing on behalf of all family members.
One suggestion I'd have, if you're gonna contact NFHS on that is, I would ask them, what can we do with that? What would you suggest on the parent guardian to cover whomever? The initial parent. I don't know.
I think you can change it in the first sentence there. As a teen parent or guardian, I agree that my family will follow this code of conduct.
There you go, that's great.
Just leave it, yeah.
the other recommendation, Nani, is I would include the next. Reference the next, somewhere in here, maybe at the very bottom.
Just, obviously, we can't make this a gigantic.
No.
800 through 830.
Yeah, reference the next, and again, that's,
Because then that's something that the administrator has to go deal with something, they go back and say, well, here's the Nevada administrative code, the parents will go, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
Well, here it is.
like they say, we have eligibility rules.
Yeah, well,
800 through 830, which we're gonna talk about here in a little bit. Okay, good.
But that can also be referenced at the parent meeting,
yes,
at the beginning of each sports season, that, you sign this, your students made the team.
I don't know if it can be covered in the sports management guide or that with the meetings that you have with the parents. But I agree with Amy, I don't necessarily agree with you have to have them sign it again, you can, but I would go through this and say, let's go through this. Let's make sure that you understand what you did, you signed it, but let's review it because you need to hear it more than once.
Well, and if we all agree that sportsmanship is important, so, they can't be on the court or on the field unless they have a physical, unless they have registered, unless they've done all these things, so this is just another aspect of that. And if as a coach, we want a kid to play bad enough, and if the kid wants to play, the parents or guardians, they're gonna find a way to get to a meeting or to sign this stuff, because they find a way to fill out.
Listen, I agree, but I think if this is part of Activate, it covers that also.
Yeah.
Like parent meetings, yes, you should have them, but if this is an Activate, whether there's a parent meeting or not, they've signed it, and they've acknowledged that they've signed it.
Well, I think we're talking about a smaller percentage of the issues that we're gonna have with our spectators. I think the bigger issue we have is with that relative, with that person that comes to the game who doesn't have an actual kid in the program other than a relative, so they didn't sign that today, they didn't read any of this. So we have to have language that we can direct and make sure that we can address that individual.
Have them sign.
We can't, so, but we have to have, but NAC and these kind of things would protect us against those people. So I think we're spending a lot of time on the people are doing and signing this and putting that on and doing all that. I think that's taken care of those. We have to have something substantial that we can say, that parent that didn't sign a damn thing, didn't come in, just came in to see their nephew play and cussed out the official and gets kicked out. And we have to have something that we can tell this person, hey, look, this is your first offense, whatever the case may be, and then put the law and the consequence in their hands and let them understand it and act.
Trespass letter.
Yes.
And you know, if you're doing the PA announcements, you're giving you advice, maybe. So whether they heard it or not, you have to come back and go back and say, this is the public service announcement given, you didn't follow it, here's your $5, go back. Oh, thank you very much. Yes.
So Dale, like I told you earlier, right, so I'm doing baseball yesterday, I had an injection, it lands up being a grandparent, but I mean, the language of the F-box he was throwing out there in front of everybody, I ejected him from the game. But Rollins, to your point, I mean, it has to be extended more than the parents. And I guarantee you, the behavior of the spectator yesterday, which is the grandparent, was not the first time he acted like that. 100% before that. So.
Well, that's a good case to come back to the school and say, okay, this spectator, mandatory meeting with the administrator, they come in, they go through this, say, you know, if they had read the announcement. If we're into this process, we read this announcement, this is what it says, this is what the NAC says, if that's gonna change, which I'm assuming it is. Then to say, look, here's your first warning, or you're not welcome here for the rest of the season, we'll see you next year. Whatever, that administrator, in my opinion, has that right to do that. That's not really an NIAA thing, that's that side administration, they can trespass them.
Well, but, and I
Say
think,
it's done.
I mean, just to keep kicking the dead horse, like. The grandparent, like the verbiage that Lori's suggesting, that encompasses that person. Well, there's 6 degrees of separation there when it comes to that statement. So if it's vague or however it's written, that includes grandparent, that includes uncle. Like you're there on behalf of this student athlete. So however that's, then you don't worry about what they are. I mean, ultimately, if it's just some random guy off the street, absolutely, get their names, send them a trespass letter. It's not overly difficult. The one issue there is though, at the 2 sports where there are the most problems, we have 0 security. So it's usually, you know, at these, it's usually 1 administrator and 1 CSM, if the CSM is willing to work. And in baseball, softball states, you're in 2 places at one time, you know, and at some schools that's a drive. At my school, I park in 1 spot and I can see both fields. So, I mean, there's things to consider there. I know security's been an issue, you know, in Clark County discussion. But I mean, those are things that would help address those things too, by making some sort of type of security mandatory. Because you do, I mean, you take a gym, you got 1 administrator and 3 officials against 2,000 people. And you guys know if something were to happen, you know, at least there at basketball, there are a couple of police officers, but it's the time. Some of these 5-day basketballs, the games out there get pretty heated, you know, so. Something to consider.
Okay. Any more on? Whether
Yeah, let's go to 12 through 16. My intent is for us to send out just a zip file with these ads that are in there and tell us what if you have the ability to enlarge them or post them, you know, at your injury areas or anywhere you want, please do so. Just on behalf of the association. That's it. I don't know if schools want to do that. I don't think we're gonna mandate schools put up posters like this, that's not my intent, to just say these things exist, they've been created. You know, the first on page 12, and that was enough, some fans will walk in, well, I'm always been really good. And they might get offended by seeing something like this, I don't really even know. So that's my intent with 12 or 16, just to send them out. And then to Ellen's point, on page 17, sending a thank you letter out to our officials, which we can certainly do through Arbiter. Yeah, even if it's generic, it has my signature on it, but still being able to somehow figure out a way to implement some kind of name, how we would use this, we'll have to work with this internally. I think we can bring this up during our commissioners and officials meeting in June. And see what the best source is to send this out to our officials to communicate that. So Vince and Alan, think about that when we meet in June. How do we use this? How do we type in every single official's name? Because obviously I'm not sure how that happens. But some kind of communication, you know, think about that. We can talk about that on behalf of this committee to take to our official meeting in June.
Yeah, I think Arbiter has capabilities in there where you can add some sort of document they have in there. Because they already have one right now where, you know, somebody tries to log in and say, hello, so-and-so.
Yeah.
Here's what it is. So they do have that separate in there, but we'll check into that.
Yeah, I want to get auto-populated name.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it does. It already does this, kind of this form in there. Once you have it in, you probably have to do it for each association, has to load it, but we can contact Arbiter and check.
So are you saying this letter would only come from the NIAA office, or would this be available for the schools to also send the officials? Because I'll tell you, Needles, California already sends this letter right now. This is more official, been down in Needles this year and contacted us the day after, and Ken Parker.
Yeah.
Somehow got their information, sent them this letter. So I mean, I don't think it should just come from your office, it should be made available to the schools as well.
There's no limitation on that. So.
Yeah, okay.
All right, well, so Vince and Ellen have more homework to try and think about exactly how we will get this out. There aren't roadblocks. Figure it out. 17.
For those site administrators, athletic directors, administrators. Man, I tell you what, just a thank you on your way out means a lot to an official. Win, lose or draw, that means a ton. And we're glad to see you when we get there. It's always nice too, but man, I'll tell you what, Vince and Ellen, I'm sure, you know, that's one of the things, especially for new officials, that carries a lot to those officials, because they do a lot of work. And again, if they weren't there, coaches be officiating. Good luck. Yeah, call your fouls. Okay. Anything else on letter I? Okay. I just a quick note on that too. I sat in on the section, is it 8, Ellen? Was it our section?
It's 7.
Section 7, when they went through this. And I know Ellen's gonna talk about that more, and it was very good, very well put together. Very organized and very informational. I really appreciated that. I appreciate the invite to be able to sit in on that. Okay, also letter I is done. We will move to letter J, Nevada Administrative Codes on Sportsmanship and Ethics, Standards of Conduct for possible action. Member Sloan, since you're a partner around.
Pam, if you don't mind, I'll just start real quick with an introduction about this, that's okay. So, the handout, there we go, we give us some packet, it's got some red, mentioned language in there, just have it, this is part and parcel of what you're gonna find here on the pages 18 through 29. Ultimately, the intent is to bring this back in a workshop and amend our Nevada administrative codes. Okay, so if this isn't prepared to do that right now, it's not written out properly. It's just my notes in here of substituting words. There's a certain way we submit something ultimately to the LCB for inclusion, but these are some of my notes, and so we can take a few minutes to look at page 18 and starting to in essence include the word spectator. Let me see that same thing on page 19. Nearly going, see, no changes on 20, page 21. It doesn't mean this is necessarily be 0.811, that's not necessarily accurate, but we're just writing it out. Requirements for spectators to be a brand new section that would go in here. That carries over to page 22. And then going to, including spectator in page 12. And then we get to the miscellaneous information at the bottom of page 22, going forward from there. That's where the handout then gets possibly included with what you see in the miscellaneous going pages 22 through 29. And that's regulations 820 through 830. And what I have in here, again, just basically including spectators. Page 2, your handout, first objection, talk about again, progressive discipline, right? That's under age 22, how that would go. Rolling through the 4 pages under your handout, there's a lot in here that outside of what you see in the packet that actually gets very specific as to penalties when you see the handout. So Pamela, let's set the table for you there a little bit, and if you want to do mine, I'll have you take it from here, please.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. As those of you who've been on this committee for a while, back in 2019, I've been battling with this since then. That Bart Thompson started the conversation, and there's actually a document on the NIAA website, I believe is still there. That talks about the recommendations of sportsmanship, and that's where I took a lot of the information initially from, because when we reconvened the sportsmanship, it's like we started all brand new, we didn't need to do that. So again, there's a great document there. I had gone through that initial document and I incorporated a lot of the good information that Bart Thompson had, and I placed it in the handout in which you have. And that's where, and again, this was back in 2019, where we talked about fines, we talked about a meeting that has to attend by either the designated, with the designated NIAA executive director. And these are pretty much my thoughts and feelings. I think we need to massage them. I think we need to take a look at them, because we talk about assessing fines. We're talking about first ejections, second ejections. You know, we've had the conversation, hey, sometimes depending, you know, when it's a second ejection, maybe they need more than sitting out one game. I don't think what we have in place right now is strong enough. But like I said, this is stuff I put together in 2019, it's 23 now, still a little frustrated we haven't progressed. But we need to get that workshop together, we need to put some nuts and bolts, we need to go forward with this. Appreciate any feedback that you may have. I know it's a lot of information. But again, it was 2019, and here we are today. If I may too go, and I just want to reference a couple of things that Donnie have in the packet. And I thank you for putting the spectator component in there. Page 29, at 21, I think it references back to what maybe your handout is. Sorry, I really haven't had time to review what you put in here, Donnie. Since this came through. Going back to 21, spectators comply with regulation decision.
Yeah, Pam, while you're looking through it, what I would say is treat this in 2 parts, right? Look at page 18 through 20, top of 22 first. If all these seem, what I've got highlighted in yellow, seem reasonable, that we would take forward to an actual workshop, that we would reconstruct it to read properly for a workshop session, then I think that's the start. That's part 1. Part 2 is starting on the bottom of page 22, miscellaneous, and tying that into the handout here. Look at what's recommended in the yellow, and then also consider, like for example, on page 1 of your handout, instituting that language also into 820. So 820 starts on page 22 of the book, starts on page 1 of the handout, and then you see after number 3, where I still got some yellows in there, some highlighted things, then do we incorporate this penalty? You know, a student or coach who physically assaulted an official shall be expelled from all levels, etc. $500 fine paid, attend the meeting with the NIAA designee, local sanction determined. So does that also then get written to H1? And then if you flip the page to page 24 in your packet, and then page 2 of your handout, right? You see number 1, still got some yellow there about spectators being there, and then what about language? Participant, first objection. coach school personnel, first ejection, does that also then get incorporated additionally into what I've got here in the packets? So right, you gotta consider that, and so you can see where I'm getting at, there's a lot of stuff here. This is big, it's big, heavy lift, so. And I'll let you go back to, start with page 20, for example, and what you've got on page 1 of the handout, is that go into it and open up perspective, that makes sense. It's additional information that would go through a potential workshop session.
Yeah, because the handout actually starts in 820,
Yes.
which is,
Correct. The other stuff you did, there wasn't anything else in the previous language other than what I did that.
that's correct.
That came back in 2019.
Yeah, I primarily just started at 8.
Yeah, correct.
Spectator contest on page 22. I don't know, does anybody else see anything? Let's see.
If you just look at the first page, yeah, entry 20, is everybody okay with that red bullet point? That's a lot of stuff.
And the question I have on your read on that first page, what is a local sanction as determined by the principal supervisor, approved by the NIAA?
Meaning that I'm a school principal and I want to go, like Dan, I can use Dan as an example. Your second ejection, what do you do with kids' second ejection?
Depending on, they're probably out the rest of the year.
So that would be the sanctioning by the school, and then the school would just communicate that with the NIAA, because you as well as I know that when he does that, throws the hammer, you're the next vote.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that-
I
that's
just want
what's-
to make sure it's clear. On
yeah, that's what and if that has to change,
one thing I know is they never approved it, unless it's something pretty heinous.
it just looks like we collaborate.
Yeah, there you go. Then the other question I had was something about the player and coach's first ejection. Thinking about, and you said, are some ejections more heinous than others? Like a first ejection and so they may, whatever, something low level that it getting ejected for. But then there's, I guess fights are covered. And hitting officials are covered. But I don't know, is there?
Let me give you an example, soccer.
Soccer.
Soccer is always on the table. A soccer ejection can be two, what's the term they use, 2, 3, whatever, where they slide tackle, something like that, which is completely different than telling an official, you missed that at the ball.
Yes.
You know, that warrants really, and that's why, like I said, this is old, in 2019, we've never taken a look at this, but if that needs to change. But then again, if we say, okay, you do this, you get one, you sit one day, however. You do this, then you have to sit up 2 days,
But it'll still be just your first.
first
event.
ejection, correct,
So it gives you the flexibility.
A level system in your
Right.
first ejection of level 1, level 2. 1 day, 2 days, whatever, 1 game, 2 games, whatever.
because trust me, Kate and I actually met with SNOA, it was a great conversation. Vince was there and some officials, we had coaches at the table, administrators. And the difference between the yellow cards, slide tackling, or the aggressive play and things like that, that was like 20%, but the other side of that, 80% was the language.
Yeah.
And,
Just.
yeah, so, but here's the thing, you would need probably the official association that's writing the report to indicate if it should warrant, or we want to give that, gonna put them in a bad situation, they're gonna have to either warrant a 1 day or a 2 day suspension. Based on, and I would also ask, and I've asked this for years, that we need a little more, some officials do a great job. And writing out, some do a phenomenal job. But we get soccer ejections, and sportsmanlike play. Exactly. So,
It's,
All right, so in baseball, we have an ejection. You got a player trying to break up a double play, makes contact with the second baseman, the umpire checks it. That's 1 game suspension, right? All right, that happened in baseball. It just happened the other day. And then we shift to basketball, and we got a game. The team loses, now the player on the losing team goes into the official's locker room this year the dressing room is for instance, like the officials in the locker room. In a secured area. Now, he gets what, 1 game suspension too? And that's what it might up in, 2 completely different situations, make no sense. Where you have player A trying to break up a double play, and he's ejected. Now you have another guy going to the player, going to the locker room, and threaten the officials to fight after the game, and that's 1 game suspension. So, it makes no sense.
To me. I don't know, say, that's, school can impose punishment. Period.
Dale Norton,
Yes.
I'm gonna say this publicly. Schools do not, unless you're an exception to my rights and across from me, will go above and beyond.
That's why you said you're gonna, we know who will take care of it.
Because schools are wanting the NIAA to impose stricter penalties. Is that correct?
I would rather have the penalty be 2 games and I have the ability to judge the behavior and decide if it should only be a 1 game. And that's what I tell my kids is when you're ejected, it is a 2-game suspension and then I will review the case and decide if it's going to only be a 1-game suspension. And my rule is usually if it's like soccer, 2 yellow cards, you're ejected, red card. Fine, that's not be a 1-game suspension. The second it involves an official, at minimum would be a 2-game suspension on the first ejection.
But not all administrators are gonna.
Well, maybe it should be changed to a 2-game suspension and the local entity can determine if it's less.
I'm gonna speak freely here, Daniel, I know what you do in your school, and tremendous, you are who Pam is referring to. The NIA rules and regulations are always minimum standards, right? So if you have a minimum standard that says 2 games and us. I don't think you could go back and say, hey, I have what's already written in here is to do 1, because your next opponent's gonna go, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you letting that kid back in? If you're playing us, and you know without that kid, you can't beat us for first place.
As a coach, there are other schools.
Yeah.
that won't say,
Yeah, I'm just that philosophy won't work. I think it's gotta be given. That's what I think, but. I think it has to be minimum 1, then a school vote. I don't think vote.
Then we need the official to make the determination if it's 1 or 2 games. Because otherwise, we're going to make that decision. And that's tough, let's have a tough conversation here.
And on top of that, the contest back day to day, or even next round of wrestling tournament or whatever.
Friday, then Saturday.
What official, I mean, who in the officials association is gonna make that determination, the officials that cost them or whatever. I'd say there's too much emotion involved there.
That's why we had an ejection in volleyball this year, which was totally, we had to, because it was language and everybody in the gym heard it. So it couldn't be one of those where I just heard it between us.
Yeah, it should be one of these.
It couldn't be like, oh no, it was like, okay, we have to do something. But that goes back to when the persons are submitting their reports to be detailed and say exactly what was said. Like, don't say sportsmanship behavior. Well, what is that?
And don't
Describe
say-
exactly what.
And don't say they use foul language,
Just say what they said. Put it in quotes. Sorry, I know. Because foul language to one person is different. Right. So be very specific, and that comes with, again, making sure that when the reports come in, like they come into me, like you don't have enough detail, I send it back. I need the specifics. But I think I agree with Donnie in the sense that they have to do minimum and the can go from there, but I think maybe within either districts, within the charter, whatever we want to say, I think each school, just like we require our coaches to tell us what their consequences are, I do at least, I can't speak to everybody, but in their packets or their handbooks that they give, they say what levels, like they give levels of consequence. Why can't a school also do that? Send it to, for example, Pam's office. Hey, I consider this is my leveling, and this is where my 2-game suspensions are gonna go on my 1-game suspensions. If you force the school to put in writing what their consequences are, then when it doesn't happen, that's a different conversation. But I think it needs to be specified that, just like I want my coaches to tell me, so when I get a parent call, I can see, well, this is what the handbook said, this is what your athlete did. I'm going to, that is the punishment, that's what's happening, this is the consequence. I think if you forced to write down what your levels are, you're going to use them.
Could there be a clause that says if it's an egregious verbal and physical assault, all the official is suspension is
Indefinite.
enhanced and will be determined, something like that. Because if we're trying to protect officials, then don't, for example, I'm glad the official is no way to track over. So a kid gets in a fight and a game allowed out, 3 days suspension from school, he got a fight at a game, right? But that's not gonna happen here, so you track all that stuff, so. But I think if it's gonna involve verbal or physical assault on an official, then automatically.
And that's what's in 820 in red, first page says student or coach who physically assaults an official shall be expelled from all levels of participation immediately and banned further participation in coaching duties for 180 school days.
But even how about a verbal of that percent? Because that one can be easier, because there's actually he did official thing, it's easy, I'll in there. Yeah.
Yes. That may be the problem, but right, the verbal is how do you really,
But like,
and you feel the school level, I don't know how you.
I mean, if they're, so verbal assault would be a threat, I am going to violate.
Well, like in that situation, we actually, the kid, even if they're counting the window and making those comments, or we got to the point where a coach was, a kid will coach, kid or coach that has gone into the locker room, has gone into the office and verbally assaulted and threatened them,
And verbally.
And what you said almost every time, the school will never impose a 2 or 3 game suspension on them. They take the 1 game and that's it.
we do the minimum, we do the expectation of the NIAA, and that's what they'll say.
I think that's the problem out there is like, I think the inconsistency, because like what Dale does or what I may do, like, and it takes 30 seconds for me to go, oh, Foothill does this, when you go down the street, they do this, like, that's the problem, like, I give an extra game, I go to make them take the sportsmanship class, but down the street, they may not require that takes about 2 seconds for that news to get out, and then, or, you're like, well, I'm going to John from your school, I'm going over here, I would start playing that game in Clark County. I don't know, just more it's locked up and consistent for everybody. I think it makes, well, there's no interpretation.
If it went the other way, and I definitely said, okay, we'll give you 2 days, and school will have the option to reduce it to 1, the school's gonna reduce it to 1.
Depending upon the administrator.
So we still have the same problem.
Yes.
So whether it's 2 or 1 or 1 and 2. I like the aspect of the minimum is 1 day, and if the school wants to enforce more, the school can enforce more. Huh?
We have.
That's the way we have.
High schools, Clark County School District 38,
Yes.
I can name 3 schools that I know that do something, and 2 of which are sitting in this room. But I'm gonna just tell you right now, because I'm gonna go back to the comment that Tony had, we have so many brand new with no experience whatsoever. Experience in athletics, none whatsoever, that are just begging for guidance and direction. It's easy for those of us at this table to say, hey, you screwed up big time. You're not gonna sit 1, you're gonna sit 2. And we can justify it because we have that experience. But we have so many new administrators out there that are coming from elementary, that are just as green as the grass, that need hard, defined, consistent.
But they have even that same administrator who's new, and we have the rule that says they should be suspended for 2 days. Everyone's going to be telling that same administrator, just give them 1 day. So still, the same thing happens on the flip side.
So what's the solution? We keep it as is? Typically, right now, it states 1 day, schools have always had the latitude to do more there.
Well, I think that at least the school has the latitude to do that, unless we put it in place that the only thing that they can do, keep it at, make it 2 now, then, if that's what the flavor in the room is. That's what I'm hearing, is that the flavor of the room is to make that first event 2 days. And the school can go more than 2, but not go down to 1.
But then we're gonna have the argument about stuff.
Which at the same time, what I'm fine with, because they need to clean up their act too. Right? So they play dangerously during the game, and that's why they're getting the yellow cards. The second I told my team, the next red card to get, the season's canceled, suddenly there's no yellow card, and they know how to play. They know how to play.
Never heard from you again.
Right, they know how to play, so, you know, I'm fine with sending the message from this committee that all first objections now become a 2-game suspension, and that's a very clear message to every athlete, how seriously we take it.
And we have the rationale to say that.
It hasn't worked.
Yeah, one day.
One game suspension hasn't worked.
It is working, yeah, it's not helping.
Well, most coaches can care less if they gotta sit out 1 game. They do, trust me, I work a lot of sports, 1 game, that's it, they're back in 2 days, they don't care.
So this is not a coach, not a player, so kind of a question. We've had 2 instances of postseason fans confronting on the court volleyball officials. One at Carson High School involving a parent, and the other was at Barrington's postseason tournament involving a Bergen County spectator, fan, relative, of player. Whose responsibility is, or is it not anyone's at this point, to apply some sort of consequence to those 2 individuals? Is it the school? Would it be school and the NIAA because it was at an NIAA function? I'm talking postseason. Or is it just not covered at this point?
Right now.
So we need to get covered, so.
Trying to get in here, but we're working on page 20. We're having all using that in spectator.
So then we encourage the official to, yes, I want to file a complaint, an assault, because you threw this at me.
To trespass that person on a campus within a district facility. That right now.
Yeah, who would do that? Or is that something, we're trying to develop that at this point, is that right?
That's what we're trying to.
I think the site administrator in collaboration with the NIAA based on the fact that it was an NIAA event.
And remember, everything's an NIA event, right?
No, I totally understand, but this, but postseason, it was a postseason event.
You're on site that all the teams came.
Right.
Yeah, not the first one. The first one was that, like, homeschool gets the host. Second one was at a site.
So look at the first page of the handout. That language right there, page 1, is that something we want to try and incorporate in to page, 22, 23, under H1? That is, I can circle that and say, here, and we can, where we have all the other stuff that still stay in place, now we're gonna add this part, just the 1 part at a time. Is that what we want to do? I'm not talking about second ejection or two contests for first ejection. I'm talking about that. This is just physically or verbally assault an official shall be expelled from all levels of participation. So fine in there. Obviously, school would probably say, I'm not sure what school would say about that. So fine, attend a meeting, but it doesn't be. Sanction is determined, that just obviously gives permission to school to go do something above and beyond what this is. But again, you're talking about expulsion for an entire school year from being active or engaged from a coach or a student. And I can add the word spectator here, right? So we're tying that into spectator in. We want to carry that language right there into.
Do we agree with that a fine should be assessed?
Sure.
Because back in 2019, we were fine nothing.
Yeah, it starts impacting sites. Attention to what's happening in their program. I don't know, I mean, yeah, we're pretty fine now, we're fine. But. Sometimes when you hit them where the pocketbook is, I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't want to get $500 fine to get credit check.
Again, you are expelling this full school year, finding the also the addition, I'm not sure, that's what you all have to decide. That's a. So it's that's happening now.
Is that 180 days from that point?
Yes,
Calendar.
180 school days, 365 calendar days, well spelled out.
What's your opinion, Donnie, on the fine?
I would say no, fine, because I don't want you to look at the NIA office staff as trying to raise money for future projects or hires, something like that. I think you just want to taking this person off the face of athletics for how many school days, I don't think a fine needs to accompany that.
I think part of it there needs to be a clearinghouse of names of these coaches, especially if they're a non-employed, like a teacher that works at the school. They're one of these club coaches. There has to be a clearinghouse where other schools can go to.
Yeah.
To make sure that they're not hiring the particular person.
You're correct, that's right. So I have the word spectator in there, and then physically or verbally. Then attend a meeting, basically get re-clear after 8 days, and also local sanction, by, I think it's local for you, I think that phrase is okay.
So take out fun.
Yeah, and if you're okay with that,
Well, with that, like you said, I want this finished.
well, it's working right now, so we're gonna take this, take into page 20 on, page 22. Let's go to more conversation here in a second. Right, so flip the page of the handout. What we have right now, as you see on the handout, second page, enhanced definitions, under 822 of first ejection. If this group really wants to go forward, talk about a first ejection, equaling the consequences that are on page 3 of the handout, which is the second ejection. So they cross off second ejection, make that first ejection, 2-game contest suspension, et cetera there. That right? That's our next question is what is a first ejection 2 games or still 1? How we spell it out besides the NFHS learn teaching modeling behavior, there's a link to it, all that stuff. I think that carries through. Whether it's 1 contest or 2 contests for a first ejection, I think that's fine. So that's a big question for this group. What do you want that to be? Or as proposed originally back in 2019, just having these start off this way, having these enhanced commentary and responsibilities for a first ejection on the second page of the handout, second ejection on page 3 of the handout, et cetera, then we can just go this direction first.
I would forfeit the fine for the second day of the ejection for second contest.
You're looking on the third page of the handout versus the $100 fine.
No, I'm saying you let the $500 fine go over the first page and add the second day or second contest for rejection. And I agree with the comment that was made earlier. Things are not going in the right direction.
They haven't gotten better. 2019,
They haven't gotten better.
they have not,
So,
it's got worse.
so we're doing something. That's my comment, that we put that second, that's gotta hurt for an athlete, especially in football.
I was gonna say you'd be able to handle back-to-backs with 2-game suspension, football, into the season, and all that. But they're gonna say we get 9 games,
18.
15.
Question.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Keep your mouth shut.
I just think that's the inherent, that's the price you pay. You know, the season's 10 games going in. I mean, that's right. If you're gonna be a knucklehead and get kicked out, you gotta sit 2, so be it.
Same with coach.
It doesn't get easier when you become an adult.
Yeah.
So,
If you know you're gonna give a 2-game suspension or whatever, just to your point, right? Just like in soccer, you're gonna change your attitude really quick. Especially in football, it's sports where you're not many games, guaranteed.
So that's what I propose.
Okay, so this, basically on the second page of the handout, 1-game contest suspension becomes 2 games. First ejection, 2 games. We'll kind of massage the 2 verbiages together.
Okay, there's also another component to this that we really need to clean up. Again, that I've been battering since 2019, is that, and I'm gonna give you an example as you go through here. It says when service is finished. Where it's really more so for the coaches, we'll finish the kids first and then I'll get to the parents.
All right, so we'll do what's in a spent first ejection, basically the word 1 concept, 1-game contest becomes 2, same thing, coach, school personnel, first ejection, 1 becomes 2. The other information is in there, stays in there. And then if we go to page 3 of the handout, I think those 3 bullet points can still,
Wait, can we go back to page 2?
yeah, the handout, yes.
Yeah, let me just clarify some things here. Where page 2, the handout says, on the second bullet says, conservative suspended, the ejected player may not attend any contest and level for sports, but they were ejected, suspended. You know they can right now. Except if you're Clark County School District. That needs to be, because that language is in the coaches part, but it is not spelled out for the player. So, and some people, oh, no big deal, they can come to street clothes, sit on the bench. No, they have no right to be there. So we need to add that language in the NAC.
Yeah, I'm taking this Pam,
Okay.
yeah,
Alright.
the whole thing. The whole
Okay.
thing, that's-
So again, let me go on with page 2. Complete the course for blah, 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 submit the certificate, blah, 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 we already did that. The coach, school personnel, first ejection, we're gonna change that to 2, correct?
Correct.
Okay, teaching and modeling. Okay, the very first bullet is something that I've bantered over for a very long time. 1 game contest suspension, same level may not participate in any level until all sanctions are completed. The problem that we're having is that Tony may be the head football coach. And then what happens, he also helps and assists with the JV, and on Thursday nights, he gets ejected from the JV game, and however loosey-goosey our language is, it permits him to coach on Friday. Because this is a conversation we've had with Jay, that he only has to sit out the ejected game.
That-
So he's permitted to get ejected on Thursday, coach on Friday, sits out next Thursday and coaches again on Friday. I believe until circles back, he should be ejected Thursday and Friday
And the following.
and Thursday, and then resume his coaching duties, because we have a lot of coaches that coach multiple levels. So I think this needs to be really hammered, it needs to be spelled out, because this just invalidates what we.
You can have that announced
Yes,
very easily.
so I don't know where this is good enough, strong enough.
And that's where you're gonna run into trouble too, with soccer, where you have the same person coaching 2 teams. Now you've got a game schedule where you don't have a coach that's eligible to coach. I guess that means I'm on the sideline that night, but. I mean, that's also an issue. I mean, we got a lot of sports where it's just 1 person per both program.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That game gets forfeited.
Hey, listen, I'm on, I'm on your side of this thing. Like,
Oh, I know.
I mean, I had a JV basketball coach ejected at a postseason tournament. I didn't let him sit on the bench at the varsity playoff. So, I mean, that's just. But I agree, like, again.
You know, we preach about how we have to teach our kids,
I think so.
kids to behave. We have to go back and teach our coaches how to behave as well. So we could put something in there. I don't know if this,
Kids will just 1 competitive week. But I don't get a basketball season, I let them out every game. Or you can word it so 1 competitive week or the next.
You can't participate in any level of the ejection until the 2 days
I think this is fine.
are complete. That's, but right, we talked about this with, same level, what we meant was, same level, meaning on varsity coach. But I see what you're saying, it's kicked out of the JV game. Thing is, we know he's a varsity coach.
we sometimes have varsity coaches
That are,
just happen to be sitting on the bench and not even coaching, runs their mouth
it's,
and gets tossed. Hey, buddy, sorry, you can't coach your next game. That's starting in a half hour. Then keep your mouth shut.
well, this, it says same level, meaning the level that they're coaching at. But they may be coaching at JV.
So here's your example, right? Coach does 2 levels varsity and JV. Gets ejected from, let's say the varsity game. Let's say for whatever reason a JV game would fall or something like that, or let's say between the ejection of the varsity contest, until you serve 2 varsity games out, let's say there are 4 JV games, for whatever reason, it's just the way the schedule works. You're still out all 4 JV games, because you gotta wait until the second varsity suspension is satisfied. And it encompasses everything in between that time frame, however many contests there are. That is the time. That makes sense.
Map that out.
Does that make sense?
Once you go sees that, maps it out.
But that's what we're getting at, right, is all levels, until the level you got ejected is satisfied. Now, if there happens to only be one JV game between two serving counties and varsity games, that's just, the coach got it, but you're still serving them 2 contest suspension for that.
But again, it falls down to the fact that we have a lot of coaches that are coaching different levels.
I think it's, I get too muddy there.
Yeah.
So you got men's and women's basketball coaches coaching both, they get knocked out.
Oh darn.
Men's, they gotta serve through all of it.
Exactly.
Because when I get ejected from the men's and I go coach the women's, I'm gonna snicker and just say,
What that statement read, may not participate, taking off same level, may not participate at any level until all sanctions are completed for the ejected level. Instead of having it in front, have it at the end, with the ejected.
he doesn't.
All right, here. This is fine, I can bring this up, I won't say this. But if you're thrown out of the last JV game of the season as a varsity coach, and your varsity team in playoff, if you're not going to playoff.
Oh,
If you're not going to playoffs,
you know, I've done this for a long time, it's time again.
that's what.
Well, I do have a question. What happens to the coach that gets ejected and say during the state tournament? Waiting.
That's the decision we need to make. What typically occurs, Donnie, when I'm the head basketball coach, I get ejected last game of the season, but I'm also a softball baseball coach. What occurs?
Well,
You need to take
wow, that's not sure, I can exactly.
Well, right now, you've already.
Yeah.
It's not that they go big for baseball. this summer. It's-
Yes. And it is sports specific.
So they have to serve a 2-game suspension at the beginning of the basketball.
Yeah, and baseball would be better.
However, if a student if a player gets ejected from a state championship game or whatever the case is, they can't play in their first games of the
Yeah.
next season,
If they're a
of the
senior,
next sport either.
Until the next guy.
Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah, they don't have to wait to the next round.
They're a senior, right? You guys.
I've seen kids get ejected and miss their first couple,
Yeah.
or their first softball game or whatever.
They're a senior, that is.
And if they're a senior, well then,
And John, in your scenario where they had big games. So that coach that works that system, that he winds up coaching, he shouldn't have. What's the NIAA pending, they're one now, and
Ineligible coach got to get one.
that would just be that.
Then I didn't realize JV forfeit is not a big deal, right? We're not talking about close. What?
Well, no, he winds up, he's supposed to sit out that varsity game, and he's saying, I sat out on the JV game, but I thought it was the
Oh, before.
other varsity game as well, right? That was-
That'd be a fun emergency parent meeting.
Great Parsons, we hired this. year.
Yeah.
Really awesome.
Hey, I'm gonna go back to North Carolina. I think we need to be consistent. I think if we apply this to kids, then why aren't we applying them to the coaches? Because we also agree that our regulations are all over them.
So you, basketball coach ejected last game of the year, gotta go sit out 2 baseball games. And then also has to sit out 2 basketball games the following basketball season.
No, I get suspended my very last basketball game. I'm also a coach in another program. I think I don't have a problem with them serving that suspension
In the next one.
in the next sport. Because that's, yeah, explain that one to your parents. I just, you have too many regulations that you go this road, you go that road. You know, it'd be easier on administrators to say, listen, this is how we handle these matters.
Can you appeal coaches suspension?
Why would you?
You can't.
Why would you?
I mean. Let's go straight to the horse, because I think if the coach has been ejected. Well, I think part of it. So you've been, so I've been ejected. I was ejected. ejected from a game based on an article that was written by a reporter on a game. And Eddie suspended, I'm driving home on the practice, and Eddie suspended me on the radio. Oh, that coach has been suspended for a game, but we don't know how we're gonna do it because it was before our first playoff game of the football season. And he suspended me for breaking some rule about coaches talking about officiating. There's no,
Media, the media.
the media,
Did you badmouth the media publicly?
I bad mouth the officials publicly. Actually, what happened was it
Did you brag on that?
there was a call on the play where the kid looked like he was down. Everyone thought he was down. The official said he wasn't down. He would intercept and the team lost the game. It wasn't even involving my team. But the coach, the news reporter came and asked me about, hey, did you see that play? I go, yeah, I thought it was a bad call. I thought the player was down. That's all I said. Well, Eddie's read that and suspended me. And we had a playoff game on Friday. This came out on Monday. Eddie suspended me for a game. So I go, what the hell's going on? Eddie, I got a playoff game. He goes, well, since your game is a playoff game, this is typical Eddie. Since it's a playoff game, we're gonna let you coach the playoff game, but you'll be suspended the first game of next year. So I coached the playoff game. Which is assuming you're okay. All right, yeah. I could go.
I'll tell you this, in the official's contract. Vince can speak on this as well. It says that the decision of the official to eject, there's no appeal. Is that in the next?
Yeah, it's in there.
I think it's in the next as well. However, I do know that our Commissioner Mark Ratner, if there is any video to support the appeal, he's gracious enough to review. It doesn't happen often, trust me.
And I had one of those where we reversed the appeal.
Yeah.
Kicked the player out, they thought he punched it.
Yeah,
Showed the video that it's a part of the running play, it was a part of the blocking scheme, and it wasn't a punch after all, the kid got a chance to get placed. I've been on both sides.
So did you ever give your opinion on another team again? Did you ever give your opinion on another team again?
Never did. But I did win my appeal to this board. I won my appeal. Here in Vegas. Won my appeal, and
yeah, he would do.
Circle back to the,
So,
language, please.
so it's on page 2. Step first ejection, coach school, personnel first ejection, 2 contests, everything else stays in there. We flip it to page 3 of the handout. And with those 3 bullet pointed items, based on what's described at towards the bottom of page 2 of the handout, going to page 3, I don't know that we want to really incorporate those 3 bullet items there. I think leaving the language just the way it is, especially with regards to a coach that may be out and about and there is absolutely nobody else there. I think we don't go with those 3 bullet points there, but after that. I'll explain, looking at the rest of it on like handout page 3, the bullet points underneath number 3, and then under number 4, for 2 games, if you get ejected from a second contest, I think what's underneath there is you get another 2-game suspension, attend the meeting. I think in the bottom of coach school personnel under number 4, the $100 fine, this will be taken out. I think we go out with that, but the rest of it would stay in there. And then finally, we get to the 3rd ejection, and all that stuff that's written there, minus the fine on page 4, it's written there. I think everything else.
So I'm gonna take, you're gonna go back to the top of 3, is it?
Yeah, on page 3, those 3 bullet points, I think that would really cause some chaos, if we didn't allow the current language to exist. Again, we're still talking about 2 games defined, ejections. I don't think we get into talking about travel team asking contest in general. That doesn't happen. You're gonna be ejected for 2 games. You're not gonna. Okay, I think we should look.
Sounds good.
Okay, I think that's easy to do. Those 3 bullet points would all be gone. Okay, but after that, let's put number 3 on the handout, page 3 of the handout. The pupils ejected. I think you've got it fairly. Under number 4, the pupil or coach ejected for 2 games. I think what you've got in there, second injections, is another 2-game contest, again, so if they're racking up 2 games and 2 games, that's pretty impactful. And I mean, it doesn't need local sanction of permitted time. Take out the second coach school personnel under number 4 with the second injection, take out $100 fine again, I think you're still good with that.
See, that was pretty clear with the same level, they may have participated in any level tall sanctions.
Yeah. Again, you're really. It's pretty significant. This is an enhancement even of 2 games. I still think we're enhancing it the second time. I think it's fun. And then finally, on page 4, the handout for injection. I think minus the notation of the fines, I think everything else in there is pretty happy. Probably deservedly so. And of course, all this stuff too, remember, I've got spectators tied into here as well, with the packet, so I'll tie spectators into this stuff as well. And then finally, the fan behavior, this is a disciplinary process.
Johnny, I got a question on number 3. Is a student or pupil only being ejected from suspended 1 game
No,
in number 3?
no, it could be 2. Let's see,
You're talking number 3 on page 3?
Three on the handout.
can I hand out?
What page?
No, it's so referred to as participant, Ellen, so it's that it is two concepts. So it must be the plain area underneath there, serving suspension, in this case, 2 contest suspension. Players not eligible to be in attendance at any contest, any level, sport. Again, that would still carry through just like this way we talked about. Philosophy. So it's still 2 contests. I think it's okay the way it is. Grant, we gotta rewrite it in LCD language, things like that, but the basis, I think, is sound. That's the direction I want to go.
Well, I was just,
Oh,
I guess what I was trying to clarify was the second injection.
Okay, I know on the second page of the handouts, second page, under 822, it says participant first objection, that's 2 games. Yeah.
Right.
That's 2.
So I got that. So on the
Same-
next
same
page,
as coach.
right, got that. So on the next page, the 3rd page, under number 3, if a pupil is ejected from a game. This is just talking about, this has nothing to do with the ejection itself.
no, this is, right, yeah, because that student has to have some kind of supervision during the game, right? We've got to have the game just something it out. So I think this says what happens after liability is satisfied in that contest, is exhausted. I think it's okay.
Donnie, you mentioned that you're gonna add the spectators to these.
Yeah, I gotta see how they fit, I gotta spend some more time with that.
Okay, so say how is that gonna be monitored, I guess?
Yeah, we would have to have, if we have to rely on school personnel, obviously, I can notify, we could have 30 times. You know,
Yeah, they have to be-
but instead we gotta- we've got a reporting area in the file.
Right, so they can't go to pre-game,
Right.
school, the next game, they know.
Yeah, we'll post it on Facebook, here's the ejection, this.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap up then with the, on the bottom of page 4 of the handout, the new fan behavior. I'm just trying to figure out if we need that or not, based on what we're already trying to do with pages 22 through 29. I don't know that we do, I'm trying to
I
figure.
don't think we do if we're going to incorporate the spectators.
Okay. Well, again, first instance, suspension for minimum of next game is not, it's 2 games, it's 2 contests.
Yeah, the
So again, I don't think we need to spell it out specifically like this, but I think it's gonna be inherent in how we add spectator with the language to all these things, right? You know, people, coach, spectator.
So,
So I think-
so would this take the place, let's say we choose to trespass this parent, when you trespass, they can't come back.
That's correct. And that still happens at the school and the district, level, the charter, private level. Again, that's what we need to clear out to be able to try.
So this is the type of thing where, hey, you gotta go today, this is like, but it wasn't as bad that we had to trespass, correct? That's
Correct.
okay.
Not yet. So this bottom part would actually be, as long as I can build into where spectators added to all these regs as well, This bottom language doesn't need to exist, and it's only gonna address two contests, done, can't be at any level, you know, it is gonna take care of all that. So I think we're fine.
It is two contests, the level of they're at, because they went go to the junior JV game. We got.
Yeah, no, that exists, it's still all levels until that the ejector level penalty is satisfied, right? Same exact time.
Consistency.
Yeah. So we're on our way. It's pretty good. Okay. So that's, sir, I think.
We have to address 25 on.
Yeah. Okay, so let's-
Page 25, it ends at 8:22.
Yeah, let's see, okay, yeah, thank you, yeah, let's look at the right wrestling, so we got, page 24, I didn't have any recommended changes, 20,
Donna, do we have any language, because I know this has occurred twice. I think once last year, once this year, where it's very in, last game of the season, we have a bench clearing situation. They forfeit, of course, and it carries over. Do we have anything in the language that states that they will have to forfeit or their game limit will be reduced by 1 the following year? Is that in here?
that's a great question, because we just addressed that, right, with, and at one point, we were philosophically thinking, well, if they forfeit, let's say they somehow, some way, the game was allowed to finish in the semifinal round of the region tournament. But at the end of the game, it was determined that should have been a forfeited or a double ejection game that shouldn't have happened. And so then we were looking at, does the region final, which the team would have qualified for, because they actually won the game before the penalty was enforced, would that count as a rejection? And our interpretation was no. We resend out that letter, I think, a third time, and say, no, you still got to miss an actual another physical game because you shouldn't have had the opportunity to satisfy your rejection in the region final, because the semifinal should have been stopped anyway. Is that in here? The language exists about the next scheduled contest. I don't think we want to fool with that. I think it's just an interpretation from office. And now that we have precedent that we've done that twice, this year already, I think we're okay.
We did football, we did flag.
We did, exactly. So the essence about reducing your game limit by the game, that's almost just a statement within the ejection letter that say that you realize you have to miss your next game, and therefore to miss your next game, it has to be one of the officially scheduled games. But just don't schedule 18 of them. Having your schedule reduced by 1, in essence, incorporates missing that next game. So I think we're okay in the way we handle that. I don't think we need to do anything different.
So let me go back to the penalties. So our penalties now are 2 games.
Yeah.
Suspension.
Reduced by 2 contests. 18 becomes 16, or 9 becomes 7. Granted, you can add a whole thing being right in sport.
Keep them out. Okay.
That's how school was happening, right? Let's see, basically, we don't describe it, and I know, we know, our football coaches are gonna say, we only play 9 games in a season, might as well take out. You're talking about taking 2 out of 9. Is that fair and equitable to all the other sports, which get 18 plus 2 tournaments, or baseball and softball, which get 21 plus 2 tournaments? Is that equitable?
Well, I think it's gonna put everybody on alert.
It's all great parks, it's mobile, you gotta find something.
They won't answer that.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, Tony, right, you brought that up, you know, football, hey, this is. Football, the penalty in essence becomes double or enhanced.
It's like getting hurt, there's inherent risk. Yeah. So if you get ejected in football, there's an inherent risk that you may lose 20% of your season or
That's a
whatever
big deal.
by not acting right. I mean,
So,
to be honest with you, I still think if it gets to a third, teams ought to have to forfeit games. Yeah. But I mean, I know that may be a little hardcore, but I mean, if you get to a third ejection with a kid, I mean, something's going on. Like,
That's lack of leadership too.
well, there's that too.
Hey, Johnny, on the page of 25 on page 24, the paragraph that's indented there. It says must be suspended for the next scheduled game. Need to fill a 2 in there.
Yeah, these will have to be updated.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just-
so it's gonna take a little while to go back.
Now on page 25, line 7 and 8. So we added defining the decision of the school administrator to eject a spectator.
Yeah.
However, the definition of ejection right below it only defines as
Yeah.
a pupil or coach being removed by a sports official.
Right,
So I might just want to rectify those two.
that's really good, okay, that I did not highlight, right? Yeah, then we're gonna have to add, or school designee.
And
Yeah,
do we need to define when a pupil is a pupil versus when a pupil becomes a spectator? Adding a.
no, Dan, that's. So that was a question we had with the region wrestling event recently about, and it wasn't quite the same, but the analogy was used. If a student is, and kind of goes with golf, right? When a student is done with his or her round or competition, and then is cheering on his or her team, is that student still a participant defined in the federation rulebook, or is that student a spectator? And what we've looked at is they're still under the team environment, so they're still a content participant. But I guess interpretation.
So then actually, just one point there is, in that situation, the officials are busy officiating the wrestling tournament. If a school administrator
Yeah,
removes the pupil,
yeah.
is that an ejection? Or just a removal from the premises?
And that, right, that is our resident incident, and we said in this instance, the answer was gonna be no, right? The answer was gonna be no. But I think if we clean up this language to add that in there, then that will then change it to be yes.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna. Dan, thank you, Brandon. That's great. I appreciate that. We gotta fix that. Yeah. That's great. Okay. So then also finishing up that on page 27, same thing. We're just adding the spectator reg. Spectator reg being put in there. Change visual requirement. That's just kind of here. Page 28, 29. Nothing else that seemed out of line then.
Okay, I do have something on page 28,
20, okay.
where you have crossed out commissioner giving the responsibility to the president.
Yeah.
I completely disagree with that. I'm gonna tell you why. Dallas Larson is a teacher. Dallas Larson should not be, and he's the league president for the 3A. This should not be his responsibility. Because, it says that the principal or designee of the school immediately report the fact to the league president. We can't put that responsibility on individuals that are teachers. Please. So I disagree with this.
So who we put
It says
that?
commissioner.
Yeah, that's what. So
That's where it stands now.
right, so back in the old days, and it still kind of exists right now, in 5A Northern Region, Rollins, you had he's the commissioner. And the intent when this was designed, this was, besides being incorporated in 2004, this goes way back, right to the early 70s. The intent was, following a model that other states do, that leagues or regions have commissioners of those leagues and regions, and that's a Bob of it. It so happened that over the history of, the NIAA, there is only one commissioner, Bob of it, of the 5A Northern Region. And again, Bob of it being a commissioner who's not a teacher, right? When Rob met before him, was not a teacher. He was strictly in that role as commissioner, retired from the duty. Great work. When you're a league president, that's not the same as Bob of it. It's not. So the commissioner word was kind of a misnomer way back when this was designed years ago. And so my inherent thought was, well, that was designed to be, in our terminology, league president. So Pam is saying, no, that doesn't follow you, which I can understand. That's a whole big responsibility. Like, don't pay me for this. Why would I want to involve this? Right? I already got to do realignment. That enough. So what does that become? Or do we just delete that altogether? And I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, you can read it and have some suggestions. Report that back to.
So who to replace that with, because you guys don't have commissioners down here, do you?
Well, see, when we use the term commissioner, that's Mark Redmond.
Yeah.
He's the commissioner of the SNO.
Okay.
So, but what I'm saying is that I don't, when I read this, the presidents, that's the Dallas Larsons,
Right.
that is, and
We don't use that.
So why don't we look at that as being that, actually you got communications happen through the Fish Association aid. In this case, so why don't we leave it as, an officials organization's commissioner or chapter president or something like that?
Commissioner or president/president,
Okay,
because you might have presidents of
right.
of local, certain sports groups, or they might be presidents of an organization. So president would be the one.
And it's of the officials association, that's what happened, right, because. Yeah, so many different chapters that are in the NNOA, for example, that they're president, they don't have a mark rep, or a commissioner.
So you
Okay, president of the officials association for chapter, well, I'll figure out how to say that.
Good catch.
Yeah, it's good. For sure.
See, that's how the initial resignation. Yeah. Commissioner.
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
interpreted that to be the commissioner of the sport,
Okay,
that sports
Okay.
commissioner.
yeah, sports channel. Got it. We'll put it.
Who doesn't have a complaint?
That's not the president of the chapter, yeah. That's why I write it. Commissioners responsible. President of Officials Association Organization Sport Chapter. Okay, good. Okay. All right, anything else on 28 or 29? We've got about,
Well, maybe on 29, number 4, says, the yellow part and reporting violations.
same thing.
Yeah.
I'll change 6, sorry. Good. Thank you. It's gonna be carried over to page 28. Got it, thank you.
Okay,
Right, yeah, we got an hour and,
first 10, but I'll 11:15, who's gonna get.
I think we got your month.
Okay, letter K, we need to look at real quick while you. Got you. 2.5, 3-minute break. All right.
Yeah, so, all right, all right. Yeah, everybody hearing that? Al is still active, so, don't say anything that can, we'll be helping you to put off.
Also, the president was right?
What year was the pan? Oh, every time I say 2019, I got 2019.
I didn't know, I was laughing over here, I completely understood the reference.
Well, okay.
Playing here.
Okay, did you do it? Okay, good, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we started working that, yeah, exactly. And Lori wants to get everybody, so.
Yeah, nice. And then mine.
Yeah. Not everything.
I mean, it was gonna happen. I understood it's like.
He's gone.
Okay.
He's on.
Gonna be run like you. Who's running? Are you gonna run this? Yeah. One of them. Yeah. Okay, so Vince, okay, so what I was gonna ask you is based on the RFP, are you gonna go to, what we did is we broke it down to two different types of this. Groups. Will be a big. Sweet, okay, good. Good.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah, they-
Yeah. Okay. Good, good. All right, buddy. Everything's good. I'm gonna definitely need anything. All right, buddy. Hey, Sydney, Cindy, the gal. Information, you had sent me her information earlier. Give it to me again, because you know what, my phone, this is like a couple of days and I drop off.
No one's here.
Yeah, I can see. Both. of them. Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't need her information, I need the information on somebody before I can, I sure that's for me and my secretary and my. Okay. Oh, well, you send me, where do I get the brochure, the book, and all that to look into? Yes, yes, do that. I'm on that. Yes. Perfect, almost had some things to pull over and stuff like that. Here. No, I don't care. Okay. All right, thanks. Put it in the regulation. This is so we're gonna get down to the.
Yeah.
For all of our stores. Absolutely horrendous, and we didn't accumulate a sanitary. For the rest.
Yeah.
Remember,
I was guessing, yeah, for that. Yeah, probably other people that are taking that stimulation. So it was.
All right.
That's already in here, so we'll together, I've got it. So that's I, team Ward, I just. Yeah, that's just gonna happen, we got one. Yeah, it's very good, reason here, that we just. Thank you, I was out of my. Schools are over here. It's just working to review the whole thing is in here. We can share, we're going to work on that. Section of that.
Well, we gotta figure out who the date is. Coming without date, I think, yeah. Yeah.
I also love stations. I know it's gonna be cold.
Alright, look at it.
Wow, it's yes,
I'll go grab the bus.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And we'll move on to letter K. The NIAA Sportsmanship Committee reports and programs for possible action. We'll start with the NFHS NIAA Award of Excellence Recognition Program. King, Robinson, and Nelson.
Yeah, I'll start this. We had a handout here, the certificate from the NFHS. I printed it vertical. It's meant to be horizontal, so it takes up the whole page. What the guidelines we have on page 30 are what would be implemented to recognize and have this sent out, the handout. It's kind of funny because I know Lori Schneider from our mentioned about this award of excellence. And oddly enough, you know, we have the NIAA Award of Excellence in citizenship, sportsmanship, citizenship, athletics, and academics. So this is like another award of excellence. We might need to rename the other award to something else, usually the one to Vatican Cup. This one they have all the rubric points on. We give a big plaque at the end of the year to a winning school, each classification. So we'll probably keep, because this came from the NFHS Award of Excellence, we'll keep this, maybe we'll rename it. Ellen, thank you. You did all this work on page 30 to say how this can be recognized. You can submit. I'm gonna turn it over to you, and if you want to talk for a few minutes about this page.
Hey, Lynn and I put this together. We're still working on some of the criteria. To be more specific, it needs more details here. As far as, who could submit it, just components of the application itself. But again, our thoughts would we would have this nomination be on the NIAA website, some sort of Google form where things could be attached or added. They had to, put in some sort of video or some other description, something that was bigger than just typing it, in a huge form. And then we had, on number 4 was trying to include this in the citizenship through sport. If there's a committee for that, is there a committee for citizenship through sport?
They're not, no, manuals exist as something that's prepared out of our office.
Okay.
Completion.
So I thought, maybe, again, this was going to be incorporated in what you're talking about, at the end of the cup.
Bonus points.
Yeah, points, is trying to determine, what the point should be, the threshold should be for that. And then again, who could be nominated, different groups. So obviously, if an officials association was nominated, they would be part of the group for that particular thing. We talked about having this issued at least no more than once per sport per season, near the end of the season, and trying to work on details for a timeline as far as what's the submittal cutoff date, and then what's the time frame for us to, look at those forms that have been submitted, the nomination forms by a review committee. When a deadline is what we would announce it, and then of course, or maybe not announce it. There could be entities that submit it and you're close to meeting excellence, but you're not quite, in our opinion, didn't quite meet the threshold. But we would still again want to recognize the group or the person for submitting and displaying that sportsmanship behavior. And then again, when and how and exactly where to award this award of excellence. Would it be, Lynn, you want to talk about that?
Possibly, we give out, our academic championship. If, for example, a individual
within the south, and let's say the state championships in the north, we could do it at region, but we'd like to be able to present that to a large enough audience, so there's that meaning, it becomes very meaningful, whether it's an official that happened to win that one particular sport for that, they would be presented at that time. Or if it can be done during the state tournament, because that person happens to be, if they're up there anyways, or if they are from the north and it's in the north, they could be presented at the state championship.
Both of you, Lynn and Lynn, thank you for getting started on it. Sure, we're making good progress. Is a certificate, how many of these do you envision possibly being awarded over the course of a school year, for example?
Well, like we said, not more than one per sport.
Okay,
I mean, if we don't get a nomination in a particular sport, then that sport doesn't get one in that particular year, but we're hoping to gain some ground but we want to make it meaningful. It's like Ellen said, this one thing might be submitted that really not what we could be exemplary, so.
so is this certificate enough, or do we think we need to design some kind of a smaller type of plaque? I know it's a financial possibility.
I think this certificate is nice enough that even if you wanted to do it on a plaque, but use that certificate on a plaque might be good enough, or just nice frame. But something that can be, I think it's important enough, it's at a school, you hang it
Yeah,
where
okay.
people can see it.
Well, and also, we proposed, one per sport per season, but
Yeah,
we could always modify that
Yeah.
to just the fall, just the winter, just the spring. We could always modify it that way if we found that we didn't get enough applications. We're hoping to have this pretty much detailed and finalized so that we can present it at the next sportsmanship committee meeting.
That's what I was.
We were
gonna-
thinking in the summer meeting, looking to, if there's one or two or three people that want to join us on this with their ideas or anything, let us know.
yeah, that's something that was, never want to use cost as a prohibitive measure, but it's something that we could afford. We could do something a little bit nicer in terms of a presentation if we didn't have that many to present. Otherwise, we're back to fines and start bringing those back. Yeah, we objections, we could find it by again.
To me, if it was a school, a team, this would be nice, in a small, in a banner that could be hung in the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the vinyl banners, if it's an individual, then you can do what I call pin plaque, the clear plaque with this,
Exactly.
the 8x10, 8x11. Yeah, so I mean, I think you kind of base it on,
Teams.
who it's going to. So individuals to me would be the nice flag, if it's a team thing or a school thing, then it should be displayed.
This will be easy, Don, it would be put on the website, the ticker, so it's always on there, so click on.
Yeah, that's who we got.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
We would need time to produce something and make something. I guess it depends on the time frame something selected. If we didn't have somebody selected until, let's say, regional week, and we're trying to present a state week, that we wouldn't have time to go get a plaque or a banner done. Just gonna try to, not that we couldn't announce it and give.
Well,
Always give, this stock.
Holding.
Like your diploma in high school.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it later.
Yeah, good.
okay, so you'll try to have finalization by June.
Yes.
Anybody that can talk them out, they'd be glad to take it off. Okay, number 2, sportsmanship, team championships awards, Amy and Ray.
So not a lot of new stuff to report, we're still struggling with how, who gathers the information, how it all sets up, mirror it up in an academic all state. So I kind of thought maybe the simple, let's get it started, we fill out our GPA for our volleyball team and so on. Maybe every school has that form, they fill out number of ejections, hopefully 0. This, and then maybe there's an extra part at the bottom where the official might, and that's a bonus point, so that you guys can score quickly and easily, and then make the award. Because I think the gathering and keeping track of it's gonna be hard, if we make it any complicated at all, but a simple number of ejections, hopefully 0 number of warnings, maybe you fill all that out, you turn in like you did for your academic goals there.
Can you maybe detail it down for June?
Sure.
For us to take a look at.
Any rounds?
And then we get action.
Well, it certainly makes it much that shows, you know.
And you guys.
Simple, you know.
You good with that, Amy?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll look for,
All right, Peter, Jeff.
yeah,
I think we have a tie, we gotta have another kind of.
I think if you had, you know, our official said this school week.
number 3, I think we got beat that up.
I think number 3 is amazing.
Number 4, thank the reps, silent night initiatives or any kind of initiatives with sportsmanship and officiating, Vince and Ellen.
Okay, so I think it was last meeting we met in person, we presented. I guess you call it a packet, right? I mean, I can resend it to you guys through email, so. I mean, if we want to do it, I mean, obviously you probably start next school year. The biggest thing is we'd have to select the dates. I mean, you can call it thank the rep, you can call it official appreciation week or 2 weeks, whatever. Where each school would select one game for each sport. And this, let me see here what I have. First of all, like I said, you'd have to select the dates. You'd have to, let me see what else we got here. We included a thank you rep certificate, so the schools knew ahead of time who the officials were, they could have certificate, kind of like this right here. There'll be a special PA announcement made about what they're doing. You could have some social media coverage or media coverage. Some states have a newspaper article the week before what they're doing. The schools or players or booster club could present a gift or a couple small gifts to the officials prior to the game. It can be something small like a gift certificate or whatever, no matter. And then we could also hand out some kind of recruitment things or post recruitment things in the gym that night or outside. And it would be for all levels, varsity, JV, and freshman. Like I said, I can resend you the packet, which we came up with myself, Ellen, and Mark in the next couple days.
Why don't you, that's fine. I would say maybe streamline that down to, actually recommending the dates and, and, you know, to kind of get it pretty much ready for schools. So that the NIAA or whoever can get it out to the schools to say, well, you know, and we have to communicate the officials to say, well, you know, hopefully this is gonna happen. But, you know, don't always expect it to happen because not all schools will participate. Unfortunately, I would hope they would. But, you know, just to kind of get it more down into streamlined detail for the summer for us to look at. You can bring it up, well, you won't be there. Ellen can bring it up to the commissioners for the officials meeting, in June, right ahead of our meeting.
Right. I was thinking, yeah, we can set a calendar. Do you want us to just go through the fall at this point on the calendar since at least I have some valuable dates.
Okay, we can set the whole days. What I created originally was October 3rd through October 15th for the fall.
Yeah.
January 9th through the 21st in the winter, April 17th through the end of April for the spring. So I think it'd be better to set the dates. There'll be a letter that goes to the schools prior to this, so they understand what the program is.
Right, and I would let schools know too that, you know, these are the suggested dates. Because not every school district in spring is gonna have those dates open and available because of their spring breaks and all that stuff going on. But the more of that stuff that's ready to go, a one-time shot, I think is the best way to go because most school administrative secretaries will put that right on the calendar and it's in there. But then also in the letter to say that, you know, we suggest these dates, we encourage you to participate. However, if you can't fit that date, you know, do your own date. You know.
Yeah, maybe you could just give us a packet, just put on the website and the how-to guide and we forward on and give letter, dates, suggested ideas and actions.
Yeah.
Okay, like I said, I'll resend the packet. The packet has everything in there. Suggested dates. A sample of certificate that the school would print. Some ideas for the PA announcement, ideas for a gift or a couple small gifts for the officials.
Vince, I'm sorry, I don't know how I missed that for not being able to put it in here that you've done, again, a lot later on this. I apologize.
Okay.
I guess what we would need is some sort of notice from the NIAA to email the athletic administrators,
Well, I think Donnie can bring
that
it
it's
up.
out there, or here's the we go.
Donnie can bring it up in the athletic meetings, and then also say, this is when it was sent, or this is when it was
Yeah.
being sent. Most of the time, it's sent in the administrators meeting, or athletic director meeting, or league meetings, and then they let them know, the reminder, say it's there, you can get it, let us know, or it's on the website.
So real quick, so the states are doing it already, they also get the local media involved. Well, they run something in the newspaper or on TV, we contribute for it to promote the officiating. And it's also another thing to help recruit officials.
Yeah.
It's just not, thank the officials, an opportunity for you to bring the awareness to the shortage or whatever else.
Who do you see contacting the,
Ray Brewer's always good with us. Channel, I mean, all the news stations, we've done plenty of interviews with them. I mean, they're all pretty good when it comes to something with officiating.
how about in the north? Are they?
I can get with Don, Bart, and he can help me out with the media in the north. I have a couple contacts, but,
Okay.
and then even radio is good too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
That sounds good, Bart?
And our hope is every school will do it. I mean, it doesn't take much to take one home game and recognize officials.
We're not gonna give them a 2-game suspension, or if they don't. do it. Okay, anything else on that? All right, thank you. Citizenship through sports manual review.
Yeah, this is in here, and it's the whole, Lori's been working on this from our office, starts on page 31. Goes all the way through, because it includes regulations in the back of the manual, so it goes all the way through page 64. And including the very back of the packet, also besides the regulations of self-assessment, which we use in our award of excellence. First, sportsmanship, athletics and activities, so that starts on page 53. Lori's been doing a great job, advising this, organizing project, so she's not here today to pick up our board members for our meeting coming up. I'll trust that she'll continue to work on this, and at some point, this new packet will, in essence, just replace the old ones on the website right now. We're just modernizing them. That's it, I think that's
Okay.
good to get her, keep her going on that.
Yeah, and then you can incorporate on page 41 your announcements and things like that.
Yeah. Right.
So everything, yeah,
Good, man, thank you.
sounds like that's good.
Letter L, NIAA event management guide. Don?
Yeah, so we'll get there, start next school year, and I noted on the back of it, a couple categories for planning for crowd management, public and media relations. That's something that we're, Mr. Davis and I are working on our old NIAA media guide that I created some 25 years ago. We'll incorporate some of that stuff here about how to help and serve the media. But the other category that'll be on there will be administrative expectations, including on-site physical at all times. We'll have a list, just like we're doing. So it's on here. I'm trying to think if we got the sportsmanship statement on there. We can incorporate the new PAs in here as well. We've got the respect, which is our sportsmanship expectations. We haven't left this aside. We just haven't done anything more with it. That document does still exist, and the respect is listed on their outline. We've got a code of ethics for administrators and directors, code of ethics for coaches, participants, officials, game management duties. And again, once we think we include those other sections, we'll have a very nice start to this document, launching in August or late July for our meetings, and continue to add we include documents. So as things come up and people say, hey, what about this? What about that? For example, like on page 70, the sports medicine, that group, we got identified 9 points in essence to include their sports medicine. So this thing will always continue to evolve. And I know some other state associations around us are doing something very similar. And we all share ideas with each other about why don't you add this line in there or this stuff, something like that. So that's it. But we'll present this in next school.
Any questions? Yes.
Excellent question. Johnny, I was looking at under athletic director, on page 69, just under the officials, possibly adding in, I don't know where this stands. I know, I'm assuming most athletic administrators, athletic directors, they have the emergency action plan on where to escape, where to go. Just let the officials know where they need to go. Because we try to cover that in our association, like, okay, there's an emergency.
Yeah.
This is what you're gonna do and not do. But more site specific.
Yeah, so let me give you some background on that. let me get that communicate EAP to
Can
official.
you also title that athletic administrator / director?
Yeah, it needs to be both. Yes, yeah.
Depending upon where you're at.
Yes, no, it's all, it's meant to be all encompassing, because it's not the principal's role, those principal expectations are gonna come in another section. I'm actually working with my friend in California about that. We're collaborating on that. One like,
Well, Pam, would you put in the administrator on duty responsibilities in here?
Yeah, because
But, because the athletic administrator, the AP, is not always the one on duty, the athletic, for example, but there might be another administrator who's covering it.
well, I can tell you this, really the only event that an athletic director has to be at. And we always say it's when money is involved. Other than like tennis and cross country, that's an athletic administrator. So that's why athletic administrator / director. I mean, did I?
Yeah, but I'm saying they're not always the athletic administrator. Sometimes the administrator on duty could be a dean.
Correct.
But, when I say,
The curriculum.
yeah,
But these things are specific to the athletic person and what they have to do, it's.
right, right. I'm
But
just,
there could be a separate one for whoever, administrator on duty is for the.
Let me just just. Athletic administrator, director, site
Administrator.
yeah, site administrator. Game manager, I mean, it could be all encompassing, but.
Right. but what I'm saying is, yeah, that's what they should, they have to read the officials, they still have to do.
Yeah.
everything.
Then you also, if you're the curriculum AP assigned to a soccer game, you need to understand the dynamic of actually what takes
Exactly.
place. Yeah, good point.
So Ellen, to what you just said, if you go back on page 70, and I'll make that note to read officials, about communicate EAP to context officials. Is that we are looking at through our sports medicine committee. Having schools be responsible for submitting an emergency action plan onto some kind of a file folder that we would house at our website. And that any other visiting school or even any fan or anybody could have access to, could be a public document per school, per site or per venue. Like it's be a major lift on schools, but to know where are the AEDs, if something happens, and everybody should know what those are. Where, what is the emergency exit protocol? If this happens here, where should you go? Where's the staging area? To have so a full-fledged plan. And that's what I mentioned earlier that we would, if we do get this through, again, a huge lift on schools, but we know where we are and it's going to be necessary, everyone are different. Is to say, schools, you need to practice your plan. And that counts as one of your athletic practices towards the minimum requirement for games. I think if we do that, and tell us, hey, one of your X number for a for a scrimmage game or whatever it is, football or just first contest for other sports. I think that would help. But the point is, we're serious about this. No practice that day. You all you do is this 2 hours, spend time on it. But again, that means, I look at Daniel, for example, I look at Ray and Tony, people in the school building. It's a big lift to say, you got to put an action plan together. You got to let us have it so everybody else has it. And you can identify at your stadium, in your gym, at your tennis courts, whatever soccer field.
I guess you got these places that, I mean, we've been preaching this.
I know.
See, let me Ken and I go over.
Yeah,
We've been preaching this for years about emergency action plans, so theoretically, they should just tweaking it, QR coding it. There it is, so it shouldn't be a huge task.
it should be, but we know for some schools that doesn't exist and it will be. So for example, like, we go to state, I'm previewing at state basketball. I'll use Lawler, for example. Yeah, there's a plan in place that we adopt through what they use, so we know what it is, but maybe it's something also, we should also be able to share that with all of our participants.
Full emergency action plan, but that part of that does have to kind of protect.
Can't make that.
So
We can't share a whole plan because that defeats the purpose, somewhere in the school. They're gonna know, it's not public access.
Yes.
It is. I don't know why.
Yeah, for safety, we can share.
Yeah, you can't.
It's like share.
it's like you could give it to your, absolutely, you can give it to your opponents, like I said, or the officials,
Well, it's just like sending a letter, like, hey, when you arrive, you're gonna go through this.
Yeah,
Blah, blah, blah. By the way, here's
Yeah.
this, but yeah, as far as like making any document like that public is a huge no-no.
So that's why I think it'd be good to have it like QR code that you would share, have to say, hey, officials, click this real quick, take a look. So that it's not, you're not handing out paper, which can get left behind, like. That way you're only giving access to those people when they have that.
Yeah, they throw the trash can in the parking lot.
So,
But how,
It's $100.
how the building administrator can monitor whether or not the football coach didn't use that day? And the soccer coach didn't use it, the girls soccer coach didn't use it, the golf didn't use it, cross country didn't use it, hell, I can be everywhere. That's not exactly. I mean, and then, okay, so I find out Elko, they didn't use it, we did, now they got an extra day of practice, they beat the crap out of what we did, they forfeit that game to beating us. I mean, that's the kind of crap you're gonna have, guaranteed. Now, maybe if it's something like you guys, these codes where they have to read through the whole Mary Ann and do it and submit that they've done that. Something like that, but I'm gonna monitor whether or not that actually happened, oh boy.
but I know we also talked about a timeline.
Yeah.
Didn't we also in the sports medicine committee, we talked about giving schools a timeline. I know we initially talked about the first day of practice,
Right.
but I believe within giving.
Yeah, it was the first day of practice. It was prior to the first conference. Anytime within that
Yeah.
10-day team period required.
But it's similar to
I can't answer that
I
question.
know Dallas and Moapa, like that's what we did, like Dallas had a Google form. Coach acknowledged that they read through the emergency action plan, and you just add, please fill in the date that you discussed this plan with your program. So at least you have it documented that the coach is back in the interact email days and, I didn't read that email, like, oh yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Right, but you could, you said, okay, so you said this date, you acknowledge that you read this plan, and that you had this meeting, so that again, if they come back, look, here it is. You signed this, you get them log in with their school, it's easy to collect all that info, but. I mean, that'd be the way to do it, just raise it right, I mean, we're up there late enough, and God, the last thing I want to do is sit up there to ever go to 12 practices. And miss my own 10-year-old playing baseball or whatever it is he's doing on the weekend,
I think the more effective thing is to hold drills, instead of the meeting at the beginning, sometimes for us at the school, when we do the soft lockdown drills, hard lockdown drills, that allows us to level set of what we're missing. So Desert Pines today actually is doing the during the softball practice. They don't know that, because they're watching a live stream right now. But we'll take the dummy out there and we'll practice the entire emergency action law. So I think that is something I would like to see, is people be able to require to have, right, a drill each season to check whether you're actually able to meet the emergency action law.
We will continue to talk about that, and maybe we start writing this group as it is that you need to have it in place, make sure you do, we're telling you need to. And we'll see figure out going forward what that means for the practice requirement, other than maybe it's just a declaration signature, right? We have it in place, program. Leave it internal, so we don't write over the macro manage. Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback, thank you, that's I should share that with sports medicine. All right, that's all I got for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Letter M, committee members' attendance at NIAA State Conference. Donnie and I attended that conference in February. And we shared kind of the things we just talked about ahead of this with the Award of Excellence, Sportsmanship Championship Awards that were in progress of that. We talked about the NACs and the rejections were being looked at, so they've been advised. Stand by for news. And we talked about the Thank the Rep and the different initiatives that happens at schools with silent night initiatives, pink outs, and those kinds of things that brought towards good sportsmanship. And then we didn't talk much about sportsmanship to sports manual or citizenship to sports manual. We can talk about the event management guide. I brought back to this. Of course, a lot of them didn't even realize that existed, so we need to put a little more emphasis on that. And then we got a little bit of time for interaction, and there was 0. So I don't know if no news is good news, or if it's only newsworthy when it happens at their site, it becomes an issue isn't an issue until it's an issue. Well, I don't know, so, Don, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think people are just overwhelmed.
Well, so Donnie and I were talking too, for about next year, is that on the agenda? No, I mean, it's part of this, for next year. I think and maybe we can talk a little more about it at the next meeting, but I'd like to try, hold on, I think what I'd like to try to do is maybe have some time in data. I think it's all the teams are back together, I think, for state.
Yeah, mine is 5A boys and girls at the breakout class. We're gonna try and figure out how to have them on different days. So if those admins or ADs want to make the trip to Lawler this year instead of being in the south, then we can make that work.
Maybe try to have a sit down round table specifically for coaches, specifically for administrators, ADs and administrators, to just have a conversation and listen to them about what are the issues that they're dealing with, what ideas might they have. So it's a two-way conversation, not just a committee of people saying this is what we're gonna do, and maybe not having always not all the information. I don't know. I guess I'd like for coaches and administrators to be heard. Not that necessarily that we're not acting upon the things that are impacting them, but maybe there's something we're missing. I don't know. So that's one of the thoughts I had for next year. X will have some time for us, but if we could get a couple sit down times with those groups, I think that would be where you can just have a general conversation.
You know, Dale, when we met with the coaches, what do we have? Kate was in the room too. The SNOA, we had some coaches, we had some administrators, and it was extremely positive. Positive things came out when coaches were like, why can't I answer? Why am I shunned from asking questions? And I think they came through some really good consensus at the end of that meeting, and I think it was extremely beneficial because it was good to hear the perspective of the coaches. And it wasn't controversy, it didn't get heated. What do you think?
Yeah, and they opened up to some of the things that they can work on, you know, as a coaching association and what they can do, you know, it was all about being held responsible. What are the officials gonna do to assist the coaches in understanding why they're getting cards? What are the coaches gonna do to ensure that we have less cards and things like that? So yeah, I think the whole thing was a very positive conversation. Should be more global with all coaches, all, you know, different sports, not just soccer.
Because when an official makes a call, and as a coach, if I see it differently, why shouldn't I be able to ask? You know?
Inconsistency, I think that's a big thing that, you know, communication needs to be clear.
Yeah, and Pam, that's the first time we did that, right? Something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was great.
I think it was extremely beneficial.
It's all a learning environment.
But we got the right coaches in the room. You know, and I'm gonna tell you, this is how we picked the coaches. It was the recommendation of the officials. We didn't pick, we picked the administrators. We brought the administrators to the table that had more ejections than anybody, so they had to bring the accountability. But we had the SNOA select three coaches. That, you know, I think.
And how many representatives from SNOA?
We had myself, one of our board members, and maybe one of our, I think we had 3 or 4 there. Yeah.
It was good.
It was.
No, we really didn't have an agenda. We just opened up the floor, had some great conversations.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leading to with the data conferences. You got kind of two different facets of people, I think, in that group, right? You got coaches and some are coaches.
Well, the ADs.
Some of these,
But I think, the takeaway here is that if we're going to bring coaches that are not ADs, and I think that's a valuable component to this. I know it's separate from the NIAA conference, but I think the official association should select those coaches, because you don't want knuckleheads at the table.
Okay.
Let me, I know
that's a different direction, but.
no, and just quick content, no time was, no, we're almost there. I think, and I don't want to speak for Xavier, but I think his plan for NADA is to after this year, we brought state basketball back together to absorb a conference at Lawler, kind of bring everybody back together. Granted, I know we saw 5-day basketball separate, but to have that conference evolve into something else, where it can be a 2.5 type of day actual presentation, where there's value to all different groups attending and presentations from staff, from board members, from sportsmanship committee, SMAC people, lots of involved. I think that's what the grand plan is, Grant. That's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna happen this coming February. It's at least a year away, but that's what the plan is. So what you're talking about is, I hope it gets there.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, backtracking, I'm curious, those other, that conference, are other states doing a 2-game suspension? Or is anybody moving towards that, or are we gonna be? They were already there.
Yeah, I can ask that question next week at our legal meeting.
Okay.
So these-
Look at, Ohio, go to the state association, it's elaborate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on here? Good, there, Don?
Yeah.
Okay, letter M, committee member comments for the good of the order.
I want to say that this is one of the most productive meetings we have had. Thank you very much, all of you.
Yeah, good for it. There was one ad, Aaron Olson had recommended that Julie Men, one of the school's teachers and coaches, would like to serve on this committee. I don't know Coach Men, I know we've got a pretty good committee here, I don't know why we added it or not, I know I'd be a little careful not talking something bad about somebody who may or may not be listening, I don't really.
So my thoughts on this would be, we could take this in consideration if we have a member fall off of our committee. That we consider her to put on, I don't know. It's,
Well, let me ask you, Deb, are you looking to add coaches to the committee?
I don't think that's, I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
I mean, I think that's something that maybe we're done to discuss.
I mean, we had
Yeah.
Amy prior to administration, she's a coach, she's still a coach, I mean, she's a coach. That was not an administrator at the time, correct?
Right. Administrator,
She was an administrator when we first put her on committee.
it'd be good, it'd be great to get a coach's perspective.
I mean, they're the ones on the front lines.
Yeah.
Dealing with this.
That's why I said that meeting, was extremely beneficial, but we would have to decide what the criteria, a coach, do we want them as district? If they're a teacher, are we okay with non-district coaches?
Well, the committee was developed with Mark Thompson and I kind of going through a list of people that had an influential impact on schools and officials associations and athletics, and that could help drive us towards sportsmanship. That's how it originally started.
Okay, Dale, we had Grant Rice, right, at one time, originally,
Yeah,
he came off. At
Yeah,
some point.
we didn't replace him.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I don't think we replaced him.
He was an athletic director.
He wasn't at the time, was he at the time?
He's been an athletic.
Okay.
director.
Yeah.
Well, aren't there various, coaches associations too down there in the south, correct? That have,
We have quite a few.
yeah,
Almost
Even-
every sport.
yeah, even someone from one of those associations.
I mean, we don't have a set criteria.
no, we can revisit it, we can say yes, we can.
I think due to time, I think that's something we would probably revisit.
Okay,
I think it's a good suggestion.
I do too, any other comments we go to the order?
Just a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if all of you had a chance, I sent out an email, I don't know how long ago it was. Including when I went to the official, NFHS Officials Consortium back in January. Sent out like, it was the overview, there were various YouTubes that you could look at, or looking at any of the panel or the sections we went through, and then I think I also sent out like a slide deck that had different presentations there. And if you have a chance, look at the one that's, if you haven't yet, look at the one that's associated with Brenda. Who is the officially human CEO. There's some great information in there about what's happening as far as officials. And again, the need to address the bad behavior. So it was an excellent conference, and then we had a follow-up. That Dale alluded to a little bit earlier. On whether that, as far as the NFHS addressing this sports issue.
Some pretty good data, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else? Very good, creation of a future agenda, the items that I have. I'll go back through quickly. Is the Nevada Administrative Codes. The, Award of Excellence. Some fine tuning there. The Sportsmanship Team Championship Awards, some fine tuning there. Thank you, Rep. Vince and Ellen and Jacoby will put some final touches on that, bring that back. Are we bringing back the citizenship through sports?
Yes.
Yes, we bring that one back. Your head management guy, that will be back. I think that'll be enough.
I think what we really need, because our next meeting will coincide with the June meeting, board meeting.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about that. Yeah, do we want to, it's a quick turnaround to then. I know we're all trying to get through the school year. Do we want to meet in June? Do we want to wait until the start of the year? Do we want to meet in person? Do we want to meet virtually?
Well, I'll tell you, my opinion.
Yep.
I think we need to meet in person. I think we need probably an all-day meeting. And the reason for that is if we're looking to roll out practically everything in which we talked about. I know the NICs take time because, I think we, again, if you're looking to roll out information in the fall, we really need to see that, take a look at it. Because you're gonna go fast and hard.
When do you want to try, when do you propose to do that?
Well,
June's
currently,
really kind of late, to be honest.
yeah, probably sooner than later.
But we also know, I'm just speaking on behalf of a lot of different things. We're gonna need a little bit of time. We've got a lot on our plates right now. To get from this point through the point where we're set to go for middle of May, get into the playoffs and all that, so. I still think we tie it around the same time. We're being in that time frame of early to mid June. Just need time to do stuff.
We can still tie it in with the board meeting. I mean. I sort of think we might need a little more time, and I sort of feel rushed.
Yeah, that's my point, guys. I feel rushed, and we all want to get this stuff done. We want to focus on this committee. But I know our other duties and what we do between now and at least getting through for the playoff time for spring sports is. It's a lot.
Yeah, this is not now to the end of the spring, is not a good time. When is the next board meeting?
June 12th, 13th, 13th, 14th, somewhere right now. Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday.
Your proposed on here is
I would suggest
Tuesday afternoon.
me, to do it at least 2 weeks prior to the board meeting. That way, if you have anything that needs to be approved by the board to implement the plan, it's time to get it on the agenda. Otherwise, waiting until the fall meeting to get stuff approved.
So you think it first.
We want. It's almost the week after.
May 30th is our meeting for a realignment.
That's Lori, and I don't mind, so thank you to Lori for those comments. I don't mind if some of this, if we do change NACs, if they're not. Not that we're gonna go forward, push them, but it's not that we can't workshop them in the fall board meeting, to be honest. I think to have this stuff ready to workshop in the June meeting might be too quick, especially if finishing realignment right after the playoffs. Not that we won't bring it back to that meeting, but I don't think it has to be full fledged. It might take a while.
So those impositions couldn't happen until after that's approved in the end by the board of control and the NAC.
Right, but I still think I can certainly share by that time,
Yeah.
even in August or late July with those admin meetings. That, hey, this is not gonna be workshop until September, it's not about codes, but this is where we're going. Be ready, go,
Yeah. So,
I think we're back to around something around
I think the board meeting, I think is what, June 12th?
14.
So it must start at 1 o'clock. Because we had Wednesday morning for Wednesday
Yes.
as a proposed.
Yeah, trying to think if that summer board meeting agenda could be one full day, it probably could, summer board meeting typically not as intense, if you're gonna three. So we could do it, on the, maybe on the back side of the board meeting, which would be on Thursday, we'd have the board meeting go. Well, Lori, Bart, I'm gonna look to you, a little bit of help on the staff, as we think about right now with that board meeting, agenda could be. The summertime, gonna be one day or no, because of all the current stuff. And spring sports.
No, you're supposed to have a workshop in the board meeting.
It's gonna be, so it's gotta be 2 days, yeah, okay, we got a president or vice president here as well, so does that mean that we look at doing it, that's Wednesday, Thursday, do we do it on Friday, do we do it on Tuesday? I'm not sure. I don't mind that, if you decide it doesn't matter. I'm just thinking of the time frame of having this meeting right around, so we have time to get some of this stuff done. The reality is a lot of stuff, like if I'm gonna go right, back into some other things that he sees, is that writing. The man, some of that work's gonna take place very soon, but some of that stuff is not gonna take place until we have the spring sports stuff, then the legislature's done. We got to realign stuff.
Will this meeting take place in the north?
Yes, and we've associated with the board meeting, so I would say we can, yes.
There's some of us that are on realignment, because we have a realignment on the May 30th,
Yeah,
maybe the 31st.
I think that realm instead of.
Is that realignment in the north?
Realignments in the north on the 30th,
Okay.
yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know if we'll have stuff ready even from this committee for May 30th. I think we need 2 more weeks of work right after that, so we can focus on this kind of stuff.
Right, got it, I totally understand.
Thank you.
Or maybe. We have the realignment placement appeals on the 7th of June, maybe meet on the 6th. I know that requires you guys to come back south, you're gonna be here anyway.
Right, yeah.
We could do the week of the 6th. What's the meeting on that week?
That's the appeals meeting for spring sports.
Yeah.
On the 7th.
Line, yeah.
What time does that start?
Oh, we have a set.
Okay.
So let me ask you this, do you believe, well, can we do this virtually?
I think we could, yeah. I think that might actually
Because
help.
we're just bringing information back, it's not like, yeah,
That's true.
I think that would help, especially trying to do flight arrangements and all that.
Yeah.
There's a workload that goes into the chat.
But I think you're right. I think we need to, let's just block a day. If we get it done, we're done.
we did it,
We do it virtually, Pam, then the day before, the day after the board meeting. Again, I know with Lori's respect to good stuff in the workshop, but then let's plan on that not happening in June. Let's plan on workshops, bringing this kind of stuff into the fall meetings. But I think we're sort of ready to go. If we make progress to that. Can we then do a day before or after the board meeting or that week, or even a few days before, do it on Monday possibly?
Monday the 12th or Tuesday the 13th.
I think that would help us a lot.
I'm gonna leave that up to staff. Because I know you guys are gonna be going 100 miles an hour for this board meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 12th.
Yeah, Lori, Bart, give me some suggestions here.
We can do it virtually.
Well, I apologize because I missed a lot of the discussion, so I don't know what was discussed, but if there's anything that you want to implement in the fall that the board has to approve, it won't happen if you meet right on top of it.
Right, no, I think the only thing that would happen that we did, we would. There's things that we could implement, the NACs, implementing that is, it would have to, right, would have to wait.
Yeah, the other,
But. I want to do it right, I guess that's the point, I'm gonna spend a lot of time writing it correctly, I think, I'm afraid, even though we want this to happen right now, writing it correctly. And instituting at some point after the workshop, even in the fall, it's not the end of the world, we know we make it really progress, that's just my feeling.
Mr. Nelson, given that we're gonna be going through the realignment process at that point, and I anticipate there being some issues that roll up in the spring that maybe didn't appear in the winter. Does that 2-week period even really matter? Is there still going to be enough time in that time period for you to do what you want to do? So we just better off, May 30, 31, June 1, something like that, so that if stuff does need to get implemented, there is time to get it to the board as well. Because I just don't know that 2 weeks, given what's going to be going on,
Anyway,
It's gonna make that big of a difference.
Donnie, are there certain NACs that can they be pulled and separated? Or are those all basically linked together?
well, I would want to do it all together, so we don't come back and do one workshop, time. It's, to me, it's one big package. It's a good question. I mean, it's just very good. Again, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it right. And I know we want to implement a lot of things with spectators and, all the things we just went through with 800 through 830. If we did it in May, we did workshop at the board in June. We workshop in the fall, but even if we workshop it in June, it doesn't mean it's gonna be ready to go for the upcoming school year meeting list. It's still gonna take a process to do this. That's why I just don't know, we have to rush through it, not get it right. You know, it's gonna take some time to look at it, right? You know, I gotta spend some time to pause and say, hey, this language that works, right? You know, well, Lori's involved with our staff, we do that too, and help them look at it. Actually, how it gets put into the true presentation mode. You know, Lori does a lot of that.
So in between the time from now until it gets approved by LCD, goes through all that process, what are consequences gonna be for spectators?
What they got right now.
And I want to get this back, but I just know it's time wise, it can't happen at the start of next school year meeting. That's my.
Yeah, so I get that, so I'm looking at
So one
okay,
more-
so then what do we tell officials when a spectator does what they did last season?
Well, we still have the right to punish a spectator or to discipline a spectator without a specific NAC rule. So I mean, it's not like we let the prisoners escape and go. and
Well,
do
they did.
whatever want to
They,
do.
the two did, they've escaped,
So,
nothing happened.
I mean, we can still do what we need to do. I mean, we, Washington County, we're disciplining parents right now that have been horrible spectators. And we're implementing rules and handing out trespassing citations and all of that. So we're doing some of these things now. It's just, we just don't have an NAC, but we're still doing.
Right, and I appreciate that in Washington County, but these other people were not allowed to.
Yeah. Well,
Nothing happened, I think.
I can't comment on those.
Okay, we will schedule, right now, the Monday, the 12th of June, virtual, 9 AM start time. If that changes, we will email.
And plan on a, you know, yeah, we may have to take a lunch break for that day if we, you know, it goes to 1, 2, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, June 12th, Monday. Virtually, yep, virtual. Okay, any other agenda items or any other discussion on future meeting dates? Tia? Public comment.
This time, there is an opportunity for citizens to adopt a committee is not on the agenda. Items raised during this portion of the agenda cannot be approved or acted on until notice of procedures of the open meeting law have been complied. Should a member of the public wish to speak on a matter that is on the agenda, it is asked that such person please complete the green public comment card and submit it to the chair prior to opening the item. Within 3 minutes per person and for 5 minutes. Spokesperson of a particular group may be opposed. You request that comments be directed to the committee as a whole. Comments that are determined to be irrelevant or repetitious, that are explanatory, or will be destructive, or need to be personal fact, not minute. I do not have any public comments. Let's see by email at this time.
Calling for any public comments in the room. Seeing none and hearing none. Need motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.